So it is the 12th annual school recycling workshop. We're going to kick off our workshop today. Just a heads up that this is being recorded. So if you have a coworker that's not able to make it today, feel free to send them the link afterwards for a engaging session or something that you'd like to share with them, or everything after the workshop too will be available to you to rewatch, and the presentations will be available in a folder as well. So I'm Allie Vandercook. If I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, I'm the Dakota County School Waste Prevention and Recycling Program Coordinator, and I'm so happy you're here with us today. The goal of our workshop is to provide creative solutions and resources to assist schools in reducing waste and improving recycling programs. And so today, this is our agenda. We're going to kick off the workshop learning about recycling and reuse updates in Minnesota, including some green cleaning best practices. And then we're going to get inspired by several schools that have implemented creative ways to reduce waste. And then later in the workshop, we're going to learn all about where our food scraps in the organics end up, top recycling contaminants and solutions, as well as school recycling resources. And we will have an opportunity for more engagement this year during a short kind of group spark session halfway through the workshop. And we can also use our team's tools throughout for interaction, use the chat for questions, or feel free to raise your hand if you prefer that. And then stretch your legs, of course, when needed to stay engaged. I know 3 hours is kind of a long stretch, but you know, for the CEUs that have been approved, we don't get credit for breaks. So I've done my best to make it as efficient as possible. And I will be just verifying attendance at some point in the workshop just to get a quick tally of who's in the virtual room. And then after the workshop, my email will be available, so you can email me if you're interested in those CEUs, and I will happily provide them to you. And as I mentioned before, we're recording, and this will be accessible on our workshop webpage, as well as the presentations in a folder for those that are interested. So all the links you're seeing on people's presentations, you'll have access to if you're a note taker like me. And after each speaker, we'll take questions. And of course, we're not going to maybe be able to get to all of the questions. So the contact information for the presenters will be available as well if you'd like to follow up with them after the workshop. And lastly, if it's possible to turn your camera on, that's great. I know it's kind of different to engage in a virtual space, so it just helps us feel like we're more in the room if you're able to do that. My colleague Rachel will be with us. She's assisting with providing our polls and compiling questions from the chat. So she's just going to briefly just outline some Teams meetings reminders.
Good morning, everyone. So excited to have you here today. Just want to go over some Teams specific things and interacting in this webinar. So of course, the chat bubble that you see at the top, you can click that, and that's where you can type in any questions or comments. I'll be monitoring that. If you'd like to speak, you can use the hand raise button. And then to toggle your camera on and off, it's that camera button that's kind of off to the right, and then your unmute button. If you are unmuted and I notice a lot of background noise coming from your computer, then I will mute you myself. So just a heads up, just stay muted unless you're actively speaking. It just makes the experience better for everyone else.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. And then just to get us kicked off, see how we're feeling this morning, we're going to take our first little practice poll. So I think we'll get that pulled up, and then we can get some feedback. And Rachel, if you want to let me know, I can't see anything. So if you can let me know when that's done, that'd be great.
We've got about 4 responses.
Okay. This is just to practice, and then we can also do one before our first speaker as well. We'll have one more poll right after this if it's not working for you. I'm seeing a couple comments that maybe it's not working out. So no worries. If you can you see the question? Because you could always put it in the chat too. So thanks for giving input. That's not working. So the question was, if you can't see it, what super riveting, important stuff. What is your typical morning start? Either up and moving, maybe you need a full hour of silence and caffeine before you're fully human. Maybe you're hitting the snooze button 2 or 3 times minimum with a chaotic rush, or you're just having time to enjoy breakfast or read. So just a fun question. We can move on, Rachel. Lori, up and moving. Yes. Glenda's hitting the snooze button. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for your feedback. Sorry the polls aren't working for some of us. We have another poll for our first speaker, Alison. So she is wondering for that second poll, if you can't see it, which sustainability practices are currently in place at your school? And I might just stop sharing my screen here, which I might not be anyway, and put it in the chat so people can see it if it's not working for you. Thanks for your flexibility, everyone. Also, it looks like Up and Moving won the poll. I'm shocked. That is not how I spend my morning. And this is that second poll question I just put in the chat if you're not able to see it. All right. None of the above for some of us. Maybe a teacher student run green team at RMS. That's cool. All right. Most of them. Ooh, nice, Cindy. Right. Thanks for giving input. I think we'll move on from that. And we'll have Alison now she'll be pulling up her presentation and I'll introduce her. So Alison, if you're here, feel free to, there she is. So Alison is with us today from the MPCA. Alison Cameron is an environmental specialist with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, where she works at the intersection of solid waste planning, sustainable purchasing, and materials management policy. Her work focuses on turning complex policy goals into practical strategies that help prevent waste, extend the useful life of products and materials, and strengthen reuse, recycling, and organic systems. She served as the project manager for Minnesota's Resource Management Report and is helping lead statewide planning efforts that connect policy, infrastructure, procurement, and local implementation. She's especially interested in the role of public agencies as market participants and system builders, and in the partnerships needed to move reuse from isolated programs toward durable, interconnected systems. Outside of her day job, she's a percussionist in the Minnesota State Band, an avid gardener, and mom to a 7-year-old who knows exactly which bin his waste should go in. Thanks for being here, Alison. Take it away.
Great. Thanks, Allie. So Allie gave the down low. I'll be talking about the legislative report today, the Resource Management Report. It explores prevention, reuse, recycling, organics recovery, and then the infrastructure to support all of those systems, as well as the things that really institutionally contribute to waste, like sustainable purchasing and the system design, both at the state and regional levels. So today I'm going to walk you through how state level solid waste policy connects better management of the waste stream to Minnesota schools. So switching to reusable trays, switching from milk cartons to bulk milk, replacing bleach and ammonia with effective low toxicity disinfectants, committing to a recycled content minimum for office paper. On their own, those can all seem like small changes, but together those decisions really determine how much waste a school creates and how successfully those materials are recovered. They also shape what students learn. Every school sorting station is also a classroom. When students learn to prevent waste, identify reusable items, and correctly separate recycling, organics, and trash, schools are helping prepare the next generation of Minnesotans to participate effectively in the state's resource management system. Okay, so I have a few topics I'll be touching on today. So first, I'll just briefly introduce the legal framework of solid waste policy in Minnesota and how we can expand our efforts to move materials upstream. Next, we'll look at why schools are such an important place for recycling, organics, and reuse. I'll also cover two recent policy developments, Minnesota's Packaging Producer Responsibility Law and the Compostable Products Labeling Law. Finally, I will connect institutional purchasing to reduction, including durable products, recycled content, and lower toxicity cleaning products. So the goal isn't to give you a long list of new projects to start. It's to show you how state policy, school operations, and purchasing decisions can fit together. The waste hierarchy. This really drives all of the work that we do in our group at the MPCA. It gives us an order for thinking about how we manage materials. So our top priority is preventing waste. And as we work our way down, we see our next best option is to look for opportunities to reuse products and keep them in service longer. After that, we can recover materials through recycling and organics management. And then waste to energy and landfilling are our least preferred options. In a cafeteria at a school, the hierarchy should determine the first question. Instead of starting with what bin does this go in, we should first be asking, does this item need to become waste at all? This is a really important question for school operations, but it's also an important lesson for students. Students are learning that throwing something away is not a single neutral act. The impact depends on what that item is, whether it could have been avoided, and whether it is placed in the correct system. Those habits matter beyond the school building. Minnesota invests substantial effort in educating residents about recycling and organics, correcting contamination, and encouraging people to change some of those established behaviors. Schools have the opportunity to build those preferred behaviors into action before those incorrect habits become deeply established. So part of this legislative report was analyzing existing waste composition studies, which show us the broad opportunities throughout the state. So this is the materials that are mixed into the waste stream. So you can see in this pie chart, organics is a huge part of that. So the report also looked separately at waste from specifically commercial, industrial, and institutional sources. Schools are part of that institutional sector. So the analysis found that 93% of commercial, industrial, and institutional waste was technically recoverable through existing or expanded programs and infrastructure. That's a lot of what's ending up in our landfills or our waste being processed in our waste to energy facilities. So technically recoverable does not mean that every school could be diverting 93% of their waste tomorrow. Successful recycling and reuse programs take time and resources to roll out. Most of what institutions currently throw away is not inherently waste, though. So the largest barriers are just often the system design and access to the right service. So let's get into the legislative report for one slide. So the resource management report, it's a one-time informational report directed by the legislature. It doesn't establish new mandates or create new statewide goals. The legislature asked the MPCA to examine pathways that could reduce disposal by more than 90% from a 2021 baseline, and to estimate the programs policies, infrastructure, investments, and milestones associated with those pathways. It's really a thought experiment. Oops. Sorry about that. So one of the report's central findings is that no single facility, technology, or program can produce the scale of change that we are exploring. It would require coordinated progress in prevention, reuse, repair, recycling, organics recovery, purchasing infrastructure, and education. Schools are relevant to several of those strategies. Schools are purchasers, they're waste generators, educational institutions, and they're also places where source separation
I don't have my
habits
camera on.
can be practiced every day. All right, so another hierarchy to introduce you to. Can you hear me now? All right, sorry about that. So the EPA food recovery hierarchy applies that same basic logic. Sorry, some dog sitting right now. As Minnesota's waste hierarchy. Teddy. So the options at the top are the preferred ones because they preserve more value and they avoid more impacts. The options are not interchangeable, and moving food out of the trash does not automatically mean we've achieved the best outcome. So at the top is source reduction. We want to prevent surplus food from being generated in the first place. In a school setting, that might involve better forecasting, portion flexibility, scheduling changes, or understanding which foods students regularly leave uneaten. Next are opportunities to feed people, such as share tables or other safe food recovery practices. Other pathways, including animal feed and industrial uses, may be available in some settings. Composting is still a very important strategy, especially because the MPCA's Digging Deep Through School Trash study found that about 50% of school waste could be composted. But we want to look at preventing food and preserving edible food first for people. That distinction matters. A school can have an excellent organics program and still be purchasing, preparing, and discarding more food than necessary. So the goal is not simply to move material from trash to organics. The goal is to ask in order, could this waste have been prevented? Could the food still serve its intended purpose? And only then, what is the best way to manage what remains? Schools are especially well positioned to teach this because students encounter the system every day. Each lunch period is an opportunity to show that different choices have different impacts and that the most preferred solution usually happens before something becomes waste. So why does the hierarchy matter for schools? I'm going to keep harping on this. Prevention avoids the entire waste management system. Reuse keeps the function of a product without purchasing and discarding a new one every day. Recycling and organics, recovery, manage valuable materials that remain. For students, this creates a fuller lesson than simply memorizing bin colors. They start to understand what's the best environmental choice. Sometimes that's not creating waste in the first place. But when waste is created, the next responsibility is to keep each material in the correct stream. So that combination, thinking upstream and sorting correctly downstream, is exactly the kind of materials management literacy Minnesota will need as recycling, organics, reuse, and producer responsibility programs continue to expand and develop. So I saw in the chat, a lot of you have no programs, and I don't want you to take away that you need to do everything at once. You don't have to redesign your entire system. A focused pilot can be the best way to produce some useful information and build support for a larger change. This is based on that report I mentioned earlier. I think it's good to choose one specific thing you want to change, like introducing organics or introducing a share table, and break it down into a 90-day pilot. So that first month, you're just going to observe and measure. Look at what's actually being thrown away and where contamination occurs. You can target how students and staff move through that space, what products the school is purchasing repeatedly, and that helps establish a baseline. During that second month, you can introduce that one improvement. That can mean changing the order of a sorting station, as simple as that. I noticed this in my son's cafeteria at school. They have the bins in the same order everywhere, even though the students flow the same way, or opposite ways. So a lot of trash was ending up in the recycling bin. So that alone could be something that is a simple change, just the way the bins are oriented. So next, you're going to analyze what happened. Did the students sort more accurately? Was that change, did it result in reduced trash production? Did it create extra work for the custodians or the food service staff? And how did purchasing or hauling costs change? Then during that third month, I think it's good to adjust the system based on what you learned and then decide if the improvement is ready to scale. So you can expand it to other areas in the school at that point. So this process helps give students a chance to participate in observation, measurement, and problem solving. They're not only being told what the correct behavior is, they're helping improve the system around them. The goal is not perfection. The goal is a repeatable system that becomes easier, cleaner, and more effective over time. I'm going to share 5 strategies that focus on making correct source separation easy enough to become a habit. These can also be applied to other changes as well, like share tables or reuse systems. So the first is using real examples. Students need to see the actual items they're holding, not only just generic recycling symbols. Secondly, reduce the number of decisions they have to make. Too many materials and too many ambiguous choices create contamination and frustration. Keep it simple. Third, place the sorting station in the order the behavior occurs. The physical system should guide students through that correct sequence. Fourth, provide coaching during the rollout. Students need an opportunity to practice and ask questions before the new process becomes routine. And lastly, provide feedback. Show students how much material they diverted, whether contamination improved, and what happened to the separated materials. This is important because students are more likely to retain a behavior when they understand both how to do it and why it matters. We sometimes talk about contamination as though it's simply a failure by individuals, but often it's evidence that the system was confusing, inconsistent, or poorly rolled out. Students and schools can do better by treating source separation as a skill. Demonstrate it, practice it, reinforce it, and provide feedback. All right, let's get into some policy developments. These are relevant to school operations, and I think you'll see why. So the first is the Minnesota Packaging Waste and Cost Reduction Act. It establishes an extended producer responsibility system for packaging, food packaging, and paper products. Under this approach, producers take greater financial and operational responsibility for managing covered materials after use. The law will not immediately eliminate school recycling costs or solve every packaging problem, but it does begin to shift more responsibility upstream to the companies that design and sell packaging. The second update is Minnesota's compostable product labeling law. This began in January 1st of this year, and products that are marketed as compostable now need to meet specified certification and labeling requirements. So that should make misleading claims less common and help consumers distinguish certified compostable products from conventional plastics. I know I've had trouble with that in the past. So purchasing is where sustainability moves from an optional activity to the normal way a school operates. A school may intend to reduce cafeteria waste, use safer cleaning products, or improve recycling, but those outcomes become much more reliable when they're built into product specifications, contracts, equipment decisions, and standard procedures. For reusable cafeteria systems, purchasing decisions need to account for more than trays or utensils. Schools may also need adequate dishwashing capacity, storage, replacement plans, and changes to hauling service once trash volumes decline. For cleaning products, purchasing standards can prioritize credible third-party certifications, concentrated formulas, controlled dilution systems, vendor training, and lower toxicity products where they meet the required performance. For recycling and organics, schools can purchase bins, labels, liners, and serviceware that match what their local hauler and processing facility actually accept. A product may sound sustainable, but it will not improve outcomes if it creates contamination or does not work with the local system. The larger point is that good intentions depend on system design. When preferred practices are written into purchasing standards and contracts, staff do not have to reinvent the decision every time an item is ordered. Green cleaning. Okay, let's get into this. It's not simply just replacing a bottle with another bottle labeled green. There are a lot of cleaning products out there that are just labeled green. That's greenwashing oftentimes. It's a system that combines safer product selection, correct dilution, and appropriate equipment, staff training, inventory management, and clear decisions about when cleaning is sufficient and when disinfection is needed. For routine cleaners, EPA Safer Choice is one of the clearest labels to look for. For disinfectants and sanitizers, EPA Design for the Environment identifies products that meet efficacy requirements and additional human health and environmental criteria. Green Seal and UL Eco logo are also useful independent certifications for institutional cleaning products. The product should match the task. Routine cleaning removes dirt and many germs. Disinfection should be targeted to the surfaces and situations where it's needed, rather than automatically applied everywhere. When a disinfectant is used, the label directions, dilution, and required contact time are part of the product's performance. Concentrates and controlled dilution systems can also help reduce packaging, prevent overuse, and improve consistency and limit direct chemical handling. Fragrance-free and low fragrance products are also ways to reduce unnecessary exposure, particularly for students and staff with any asthma or chemical sensitivities. The goal is not weak cleaning. I think sometimes green cleaning can get that reputation. It can be effective with fewer unnecessary hazards and less product and packaging waste. How do you make green cleaning default? A written green cleaning standard makes these choices durable. It can require recognized certifications where suitable products are available, establish an approved products list, prefer concentrates and controlled dispensing, require vendor training and safety documentation, and document exceptions when a preferred product cannot meet a specialized need. Minnesota state contracts can help districts avoid researching every product independently. The Cooperative Purchasing Venture Program allows eligible schools and local governments to use state contracts. Two especially relevant contracts are the C252. If you've purchased any of these, you're familiar with this. We have a few different cleaning contracts, the cleaning products and floor care products. And then C983 is cleaning compounds and detergents for dishwashing and laundry machines. I'll make sure all of that information is available. So the state has worked to remove bleach and ammonia-based products from routine use in our contract offerings, where safer alternatives can meet the performance need. Contract listed hydrogen peroxide based disinfectants demonstrate that reducing toxicity does not mean sacrificing effectiveness. Some EPA registered peroxide products carry claims for serious pathogens, but schools should also always confirm that the exact product label and intended use meet the needs of the school, rather than assuming every peroxide cleaner has the same claims. So that distinction matters. A routine cleaner, a sanitizer, and a hospital-grade disinfectant are not interchangeable categories. A good purchasing policy lets schools use the lowest hazard product appropriate for the task, while also preserving access to stronger disinfectants for situations that genuinely require them. Purchasing and operations have to work together. The product specification, custodial procedure, dilution equipment, staff training, and infection control expectations should all support the same system. So lastly, we have this list of resources. So all of these are active links that link to different resources that can help. It's intended to help you navigate. So the EPA school guidance provides a broad starting point for chemical inventories, storage, staff training, safety data sheets, and lower hazard purchasing. The safer choice and design for the environment databases allow purchasers to search for products that have been reviewed against EPA criteria. And then a couple third-party certification databases, Green Seal and UL Spot, are searchable directories for independently certified institutional cleaning products. The Minnesota links that you see connect schools to cooperative purchasing contracts, sustainable purchasing guidance, state contract resources, and help develop an environmentally preferable purchasing policy. I would encourage all of you to not treat this as a list that you need to complete all at once, but to start with the resource that matches the immediate decision or need, selecting a product, reviewing a contract, or developing an approved list, or drafting a district purchasing standard. Those can all be very helpful. So I just want to close by returning to the important role schools play in Minnesota's future. Schools help establish what students understand as normal. When reuse is routine, students learn that products can remain in service rather than being discarded after one use. When food scraps are consistently separated, students learn that organics are a resource rather than trash. When recycling rules are clear and consistent, students learn how to participate accurately and understand that their actions do matter. So with that, I have my contact information. Please feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks so much, Allison. I really appreciate it. That's great. So if anyone has a question, I see one from Dan. I just responded to Dan. I think I'll plan to tackle that question on the reimbursable meals a little bit later in the workshop, but great question. I was just curious if anybody has a question for Allison currently, either in the chat or feel free to unmute. Unless you have something to add to that question, Allison. From Dan, I don't know if you can see it in the chat. I can also read it out loud to you.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a bigger policy issue because I know that there are requirements that dictate the food that gets handed over to kids. One way of combating that is a share table. If kids don't drink their milk, that they don't open a food product, something that's on their plate, they can put it at the share table and other kids can take it. It's not a perfect solution, but it can help. Beyond that, I think it's really into identifying exactly what those barriers are. Is it a policy that maybe needs to be challenged? I think that's something we have to think about as a society.
Awesome. Thanks. Anyone else while we have Allison with us? And her contact information is at the end of the slide. I think you're still sharing your screen, Allison.
Oh, yes.
So her contact information will be available after the workshop. You'll get access to the presentations if you'd like them. Oh, one more just came in from Kristen. How hard is it to start a composting program in your school? Does it need to be approved by the school board? I will speak to that a little bit later too on organics programs, but I love that Allison laid kind of that groundwork with kind of thinking about the holistic aspect and approach of how do you start these policies? How do you start these programs? And a really great answer, I guess, for how to start would be working with our grant. So Kristen, we'll definitely dive into organics a little bit later in the workshop. That's a great question.
And I'll just add, a really great selling point for a school board is that waste, garbage dumpster does get taxed, an organics dumpster does not. So if you can be reducing the amount you're putting in the dumpster and putting it in organics, you're going to save money.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Allison. Thanks for being here. And we're going to jump now to a little bit switching gears here on our agenda. We're going to jump into kind of our panel with a couple different topics related to reuse. So we have kind of our reuses for everyone, creative waste reduction initiatives panel. And joining us first here is Meghan and Blake. And I'll introduce them as they get their presentation pulled up. So we're going to hear from Meghan and Blake joining us from Macalester College. They're going to share their experience with the Recap digital waste management system for reuse. And then we'll see a short demo of this system from James with iWasteNot Systems, who developed it and can show us how it works. So Blake Olson received a Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Studies from St. Olaf College. Afterwards, he served with the Minnesota Green Corps for 2 terms at Macalester College Sustainability Office, focusing on waste reduction related projects. Blake now continues his work at Macalester College as their waste reduction reuse coordinator. And Meghan Butler is the sustainability director at Macalester College. She's passionate about creating bridges between research and practice through her work and is excited about helping Macalester achieve its ambitious zero waste goals. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you. Can you see my screen? That's
Yep,
a good sign.
Looks great.
Great. We do Zoom at Macalester, so I'm always nervous. I'm gonna start on Meghan, and then Blake is the person who can go into detail about kind of how this is operating and how we're implementing it at Macalester. So we were asked to come and talk about our digital asset management system, which is basically a way to share what surplus furniture and inventory we have and make sure that people who need that are using what we have rather than trying to purchase new items. Let's see. Macalester College is in St. Paul. It's a small liberal arts school. Part of what got us going onto this work, we have ambitious zero waste goals. Our goal is to divert 90% of what we produce on campus from entering a landfill or an incinerator. It's an ambitious goal. I don't think any institution's reached it. We want to be the first. Part of this, recognizing this goal, we've had student fellows come up with a zero waste action plan that kind of outlines what would actually have to happen in order for an institution to get zero waste. This is a picture of our fellows, and they have 9 focus areas. So I'm going to only talk about the one of 9 focus areas, but this is one of the things that we've outlined as we need to do this in order to get to our goal. So it's just one step in our overall zero waste action plan implementation process. Our digital asset management system is called Scots Surplus. It's specifically for furniture overflow. It's a website that anybody at Macalester can sign on to. Why do we need this? Before having this website, we had a basement that any surplus furniture or items kind of went. It was lovingly at times called the furniture graveyard at Macalester. It's hard to access. People weren't aware of it. And it's a small urban campus. Space is at a premium. So when it would fill up, inevitably, the institution had to basically pay for it to be removed and sent to a landfill. And so we knew a lot of these items were good, could be used, and it was more of an issue of somebody not knowing what was there. And so it's really connecting folks who want items to connect folks who want to get rid of items. That was our issue. How does it work? Why is it helping? One is time and labor. Our facility staff, whenever somebody wants to get rid of a desk, has to go move things to the basement, and then if somebody wants something in the basement, they move it from the basement back to another place on campus. So there might be in one building somebody who's getting rid of a desk and somebody who needs a desk. With this platform, you put your desk on the platform, somebody else can claim it, and then facility staff has to move it maybe 2 offices over rather than into a basement and out of a basement and across campus. So we're hoping in the long run, this is going to significantly decrease the amount of labor involved with our surplus furniture. We're also hoping that it'll promote reuse and have some cost savings. And it connects to our sustainability goals because we don't want this surplus furniture going into the landfill or incinerator. We want it to be used as much as possible. Who can use it? Any Macalester employee. We really are focusing on furniture. We have a reuse space for like other items like clothing. And basically you can list an item and you can request an item and it connects with folks on the platform in that way. This is kind of an item flow. So you have an item, you post it. People can claim it during a certain amount of period. If nobody takes the item, then it goes into the basement and it's still listed as available from the basement storage area so that people are say they're moving in. We have a lot of faculty members starting in August. They won't have to go into the basement. They can look on our website and see what's available and ask for it if they need a desk or a shelf or anything like that. The rules are everything's free. You can't sell it. You have to follow our property guidelines. You can't share hazardous materials. It's only for staff. We don't want students trying to get stuff for the residence halls. You post an item on the website. It kind of looks like this. So it asks for details of the item. And then you can go on the website. It kind of looks like this. And you can say, hey, I want this chair. And that's kind of how it works. That was pretty fast. Now I'm going to let Blake talk about measuring a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. So I think what's really great about this platform is that even though reuse, when it comes to waste management, is really high on the hierarchy, it's huge in terms of amount reduced sent to the landfill. Just overall metrics, reuse is really important, but it's also really hard to get data on. So that's why having a platform like this is really helpful. As Megan mentioned, when people input an item, they put in a weight of how much it weighs, and then also how much from that, how much it would cost to throw away, and as well the cost avoided from buying new. So if someone had to go and buy a new desk rather than just using something that's already down in the basement, so we're able to track that. And so this weight and the cost avoided metrics are really helpful in terms of just having concrete numbers for reuse. Where I know a lot of places, like us included, there are kind of more informal systems of like, oh, I know I have this person has a chair and I can take it, but that's a lot of like sustainable behavior that's just not really being tracked. And so on top of encouraging this new behavior of like more circularity within the system of people reusing things, we're also able to track some stuff that was previously kind of like in the dark of how much people are actually reusing already. And what's nice about the platform is that everything is able to we have a list of all the transactions that have happened. And with them, we just have a total of like, okay, we've prevented this amount from going to landfill because it's been reused rather than thrown away. In that basement, when it gets too full, they end up having to just throw it away anyway, which is costly and also really wasteful because these things are they're expensive and they're also very heavy and bulky. Let's see. So I think what's going really well is that now we've been able to kind of more fully integrate this with our like facilities staff in terms of how they're actually moving items, how they're getting tickets. A challenge for a while, kind of getting started, was Top Desk, our ticketing system. We were having some issues with all the information transferring over, and so it was mostly a logistics thing of just making sure when someone requests something that then our facility staff is able to see the location of where they want it taken, and then also be able to identify the item within the basement area to take it to where the users want it to go. But over time, through a lot of testing and a lot of work with iWasteNot, we've been able to kind of hammer out some of those issues, and I think it works a lot more smoothly now. it's very satisfying to see it actually like, oh, someone wanted this item, and then without me having to do anything, it was then requested and then taken to the place it should be. In terms of like staff time, part of my role is to oversee the system itself and the process. And for a little bit, that meant having to be a little bit more like eyes on every transaction of like, this goes here just to make sure it's all working. But now that it's more smoothly, now that it's going a lot more smoothly, all I really have to do is check on the platform and make sure people are posting the right type of things. We haven't really had issues with that, but that's always something to be aware of just like someone misusing the system. We always talk about someone dropping off like, or posting like 50 staples, and that's not really the kind of thing we want our facility staff having to move around, or kind of clogging up the system. So that's something have to keep a watch on, but I think we've been lucky so far in people using it for its intended purpose, and really being excited that this basement space that held all this furniture is a lot more accessible now that people can see it online. And I think it's just a great opportunity for people around campus to know what's out there and know that they don't have to go out and use their budget to buy a really expensive desk when there's a perfectly good one already available. Let's see. I think that's pretty much all I had.
Amazing. Thanks, Meghan and Blake. I saw them speak at a different conference, and I just like was so obsessed with this idea and still am. So my ultimate dream would be all the school districts have their own system, and then they can all talk to each other so we can swap amongst districts and maybe the cities and the counties. Like, how cool. But just hearing on your experience, your pioneers, and using this. So it's really exciting. If we want to take one or two questions quick before James gets us a tutorial, or maybe we'll jump to James and then maybe he might answer some of those questions too. Oh, Brandon has one question. Let's see, expanding a conversation or goal that's already difficult isn't necessarily productive. Are all of these specifications on reducing waste and minimizing extraction of resources taken into account for construction and demolition projects, or do these programs only focus on a micro level? Do you want to answer that, Blake or Meghan? Are you
I think Meghan can answer that better.
Okay, okay.
Yes, I would say it is. Right now, one thing we're doing in terms of thinking about construction demolition, like we measure our waste diversion weekly, monthly. What goes to the trash, what goes to pigs, what goes to composts. And one of the conversations we've had about waste and demolition, and this is also something that in like sustainability tracking metrics for like national standards, we do track, is construction waste. So we integrate into our RFPs for when we are doing projects. We've even worked with some grant programs where if we're taking down a house that's got beautiful flooring, somebody will come and take that and reuse that. But we separately, the punchline is we separately measure that. Otherwise, our weights are so crazy. It's hard to, because we don't really have construction every year. It's every once in a while. So we compare the construction projects to other construction projects, and then have like our daily operations, and that's how we track it. Does that answer your question?
It sure does. That sounds great too.
Sweet.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I'll introduce James here because James is the one behind the system that Meghan and Blake are talking about. So at age 12, James taught himself to program computers, and his destiny was set. James began managing his first software company in his early 20s before pivoting to the film and television industry and leading the charge into digital production around the turn of the millennium. James returned to software in 2004, co-founding iWasteNot Systems and designing websites for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the cities of New York, Vancouver, and Chicago, and winning plaudits from reviewers such as an interesting and useful resource and a very cleverly designed website. James assumed the role of CEO at iWasteNot in 2021. So thanks for being here, James.
Thanks for the introduction. I'm just going to start my screen share.
Perfect.
And what I'm going to show you is a little bit about the system that Meghan and Blake just described in terms of how it works. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So what this system is called is recap, which is maybe short for recapture or recapitulate. And the idea here is we noticed we've been doing these kinds of swap systems online since 2004. And one of the things we noticed is that inside large organizations, there is a linear economy. In the front door, used for a couple of years, and out the back door as often as not. And these things aren't always getting reused, and certainly not all the value in the asset is being recovered by the organization. So we developed this system called Recap. The idea is to help create an inventory of the pre-surplus or surplus items that are at the organization and make them accessible and available to staff for reuse based on the kind of systems that they're already used to using, for example, online shopping, that sort of thing. So we wanted to help organizations transition from that. We've got a bunch of stuff stuffed in a storage space somewhere or a few storage spaces, and you have to find that person who knows about those things and go tour the warehouse and see if anything is usable by you in order to get reuse happening. What we're trying to do here is like I said, make it accessible in the way people are used to already, sort of getting stuff online. What I'm showing you here is the system that we put in place for CSU Dominguez Hills in California. We're serving several schools there. And the reason I'm showing you this homepage is to show you that each system that we provide is individualized to the customer. So here's the one we do at University of Alabama, Birmingham. You can see it's not our tool where you come and log in. We try to make it your tool, that it's visibly identified with this tool for staff to get that great feeling about using it. And we not only brand it to the schools that we're serving, we also change how it works for each school so that it works the way they're used to things working. It doesn't disrupt things. We want to match the workflow that already exists for these kinds of things. And so every system works a little bit differently. The system I'm about to show you is the same as how it works at Carnegie Mellon, for example. So this kind of system is configured so that all the transfers are staff initiated. So if a staff member no longer wants their desk, they put it on this system. And then another staff member can come and say, I want that. There's no involvement of a surplus department, say, in that case. But in some cases, so for example, at CSU Sacramento, there's a central storage facility. Everything's handled through the surplus department. And therefore, staff don't individually post things. It's all posted by the surplus departments, all in a warehouse. And some of the ways that the workflow works are different there. And finally, at Macalester, they use a mixed model. So staff initially post items. If it's possible to get a direct staff-to-staff transfer to happen within a couple of weeks, then that's encouraged. This way, there's not moving things into a warehouse, moving them back out of a warehouse, blah, blah, blah. Instead, ideally, it just moves from the source to the destination. But if it doesn't go in a couple of weeks, they do move it into their central surplus. And from there, staff can request those items. So I'll just show you the post process. And Megan already showed a little bit about this. talking with the folks at U Alabama, they said that they found onboarding folks to use the system a breeze because it was just so simple. And that's what we're really trying to do, is keep things simple and make sure that it's simple for folks to use, but also trying to automate as much of the process as possible. Because in order for reuse to work, it has to be convenient and economically efficient. And that is how we'll get to much more reuse if possible. So Megan showed you there's some fields that are filled in when somebody creates an inventory item. But as an example of the kind of efficiency we're trying to do, we created this system called commodities, which allows us to have pre-existing item descriptions and data templates. And you'll see as soon as I choose workstation as a desk workstation, it knows the category, it knows the subcategory, it puts in a title, you can put in a quick description. It's a nice desk. The system is able to be aware of quantities of items. So if I had 2, I could put 2 in here and it would be tracked, and different people could take the items. I'm just going to say it's a really big desk, so it's 60 by 60 by 60. We tie into the single sign-on system for most of our clients, so nobody has to create a new password or remember new stuff to log in. As long as they're able to log in the school system, they can log in here. And we often, as we did at Macalester, tie into a work order system so that when items need to move, a work order can automatically be generated without people having to go and fill in a form or any of that sort of thing. And when they do that, it's handy to have these dimensions so that the people who are moving the stuff know, oh, I better bring a van for this one, or I could just move it with a hand truck, or in some cases, maybe the staff can, it's light, some office supplies, can move it themselves. So the system knows the weight of the item, it knows the approximate disposal cost per pound, it knows the likely retail price. These are how we calculate cost savings. So if you didn't have to buy a new desk, then you save that amount. We also provide example weights for where it's not immediately evident from the other selections. And Macalester, as I said, is furniture focused. Some of our schools also are doing lab equipment and other kinds of supplies, all the way to things like pylons and any kind of equipment. This system doesn't care what the item or material is, only that it needs to be reused. Able to maintain multiple locations for items, so it could be my office or my lab. If you have a surplus storage facility, then you can also add that. Any number of locations can be handled. So if you've got stuff spread all over the school, you can identify and know in the system where that stuff is. And one of the things we're trying to move towards, as I said, we've been providing materials exchanges for years, is to move away from that, what I call the spot market approach or the clothing swap kind of concept, where people just throw things on the system and ideally someone will request it. But we think that to more reuse happening, it will be very helpful to be able to pre-plan some of these reuse exchanges. And that's why we built this availability window. So one of the things that this allows you to do is to, let's say you're going to empty an office space or a classroom on a certain date. You can inventory all the items in advance and give the availability window. It will start being available at the end of this month, and it will continue to be available for 3 days from that date. And this allows, if possible, all of those items a month to find homes. So ideally, when the time comes to empty that office or a classroom, all of the stuff can just go to the destination that's already been set up, and without this sort of a bunch of stuff left over that nobody needed in the very immediate term. But of course, you can leave this as it is if you want to follow the standard kind of it's available now until it's gone approach. You're able to add an unlimited number of photos. I'm just gonna, I don't think I have a workstation here, but I'll just use this chair. You check over your listing, everything looks good, and you post it. And it will then show up, depending on the configuration of the particular system. It may immediately show up here, or it may be paused until some kind of approval process has been completed. There are different approvals that we can enable to ensure that, you know, again, hazardous waste or those sorts of things don't come. But this page, essentially, where staff come see if they can use any of these items. Makes it very convenient. They can do it from their desk. They don't have to show up and scan the website every day. It's possible to set up email alerts so that when things are posted that you're looking for, you get an email notification. And I'm just going to switch over for a moment. So I'm calling this user Mrs. White. And I'm going to switch to Mr. Black. So this is the, you know, single sign-on login that's being prompted. One moment, please. Sorry, I had logged in here earlier and it didn't like sitting and waiting. So after that, workstation / chair is posted. Here I am being the other user. So I can come here. Oh, I want this, let's call it a chair because that's the picture. I submit the request for the item. Where so for Macalester, if it's in the storage facility, a request will be automatically awarded on a first and first served basis, but it's possible that multiple requests would be placed. It's possible. Ali was talking about her dream earlier, where different schools and school boards could have systems like this in place. So for example, we would maybe put in some rules. You wouldn't want to see, let's say, some used binders travel across the county to be reused at another school. But a more valuable item, maybe like this chair or something even more worth transporting for reuse, we would put rules in place that would prevent users from requesting those in items or potentially seeing them at all. But it's possible, you know, what we would want first is for the item to be potentially reused at the school in question, because transportation can involve GHG emissions. So if you can keep it as local as possible, that's our first preference, of course. But where it's possible that it could be reused at another school and it's worth making that trade, then, you know, you would want to do that as well. So we can do things like something's available only at our home school for 30 days. And then if it's not taken, it could be made available to other schools or even outside to other school boards. So here I put in this message, please, can I have your desk? At Macalester, you would also enter the destination location so that when the work order is created, the people know where to take it.
This is
and when
great,
they arrive,
James.
yeah, am I out of time?
I think so. but it's,
Okay.
I don't want to cut you off. So feel free to just finish up what you're on.
That's okay. I think I've given the basic sense of it. And I'd be happy to provide anyone with any more information or a demo if they're interested.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I think it's really cool. When James and I were talking earlier, there's a way that it can be made in the system that, correct me if I'm wrong, James, if I'm saying this wrong, but essentially you could then click a button and it would automatically then post to public surplus. I don't know how many people are using that right now for their district or school needs for kind of selling items, but then that would have that system talk to it directly. So you wouldn't have to do 2 posts. It would be like, hey, this already exists in iWasteNot systems. And now, hey, it's had a couple weeks or whatever timeline you set. And now it's automatically going to go be posted on public surplus because no one wants it within the district, for example. Is that correct, James, that it has that capability?
Yes, we can support that. We haven't got it in place at the moment, but it's something that we've done with other kinds of systems.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome idea. Great. All right. Well,
I'll just
thank you.
If
Thank
I
you both.
I'll share my.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, James. Are you sharing your contact info in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And
Trying
Megan
to
just
do
added,
on
she'd like to reiterate how wonderful you've been to work with on this system. And she's really appreciated your flexibility and willingness to work with, Macalester and what they're looking for. So that's great. Thank you all. And yeah, again, you'll be able to follow up with Meghan, Blake, and James if you feel like this could be something you could pilot or implement at your school or district. And we would be open to hearing what your ideas are if that's something you'd like to pursue. We haven't done any sort of funding through the grant for that before, but it does fall within reducing waste. So I would definitely love to chat if someone is interested in exploring this. Awesome. Thanks so much. All right, so we're going to jump into our next presenters. We're going to transition into another creative waste reduction initiative happening in West St. Paul. So Beth will be pulling up her slides as I introduce them, both Beth and Kim. Garlough Environmental Magnet School has been doing a comprehensive school supply cleanout, recycling, and purchasing program for 3 years now, refining it a little more each year. So joining us today is Beth Ernst. She's a parent at Garlough Environmental Magnet School and treasurer of the Parent Teacher Organization, PTO. She's one of 3 parent coordinators and creators of the school supply recycling program at Garlough. And then Kim Benton is the science specialist and magnet coordinator at Garlough. For 9 years, she's worked to help teachers and students fulfill Garlough's mission of using the natural world to enrich learning while promoting environmental stewardship. So we're so lucky to have them both with us today. Take it away, Beth and Kim.
Good morning, everyone. So Beth is going to be advancing the slides and we're in separate locations, so just bear with us on that little logistical issue. So we're going to discuss how Garlough has been doing our school supply, essentially doing a makeover to our school supply system. Go ahead, Beth, to the next one. So what's really motivated us to do this is that for teachers, it guarantees that students are receiving all of the exact same supplies and that teachers are receiving exactly what they want. Teachers are very picky people and we like certain supplies and we like just the right amount. And so instead of using a generic list, instead of using the list from Target, we have a very specialized list that we are submitting to the PTO, and the PTO is basically purchasing all of those materials for us. We get the materials before school even starts, which is wonderful, which means that we can dive into instruction right away with students because everybody has all the supplies that they need. We're not over purchasing anything. We don't have any extra supplies that aren't needed. So there's less waste being created in the first place. And for families, they don't have to go shopping. We are doing the shopping for them. And it saves time and it actually saves money because we're doing a lot of bulk purchasing. And then we're reusing a lot of supplies as well, such as scissors and rulers that really have a longer shelf life than just 1 year. Additionally, we have received a lot of positive feedback from teachers that we should keep doing this. And so that is what we are doing. In that picture right there, you can see this is what a fourth grade student would see on their first day of school, ready to go. Another feature is that there is no extra supplies coming home at the end of the school year. And that's really what prompted Beth to say, hey, wait a second. All this stuff came home and now I don't know what to do with it. And so instead of donating it or throwing away, we're actually capturing the supplies and reusing them for next year. So we're going to go over what our clean out and collection looks like, and then really how the PTO does the supply list for families and teachers, the inventory, purchasing, and delivering and restock. And so that's a basic overview of our presentation today. So clean out. So these are the stations that we have created in our building the last couple of weeks of school. There's 3 or 4 stations throughout the building, and as teachers are cleaning out at the end of the school year, they are putting their items in these designated bins. Teachers can sort through things as much as they possibly want. If they would like to test out markers and determine if the markers are dried out or not dried out, they can do that. But we kind of meet teachers wherever they are in this process. And so some of those labels, I know it's a little challenging to see, but some of these labels are things like dry erase markers, colored pencils, erasers, glue sticks. So we do a very thorough sorting, but it's essentially to save time later on so that not everything is like, we're not putting everything in one bin so that it doesn't have to be sorted out later. Kids can sort things, and so we're utilizing that kid power. We work with our building engineers to make sure that they don't discard or dispose of any of these things. And so these little stations are left untouched for the last 2 weeks of school so that these materials can either get recycled properly or they can be reused and or donated. And in the past, we have tried to like capture how much we're actually, how much we're diverting from the landfill. And it got overwhelming, to be honest. We were trying to tally, we were trying to weigh things, and it just got to be a little overwhelming. So if there is, if somebody wanted some data on how much is actually being captured, that is something that you could do, but that was something that we were finding that we just weren't able to accommodate within our spaces. So we have 3 ways that teachers, we have 3 ways that we do things. We have some items that are kept in the classroom that are going to be reused, such as scissors and rulers. They are kept there over the summer in a locked cabinet so that teachers can have those the following year. If they have a whole set of class scissors in their cabinet, they will not be requesting any scissors from the PTO. The PTO sorts through a lot of things, and Beth is going to get into that in just a minute. They really sort through all of the coloring utensils, and so that includes colored pencils, markers, and crayons. And then they figure out what's still usable, and then they'll reallocate those supplies. And then we really only utilize recycling and trash when that item is at the end of its life and it no longer can be used. It can't be donated, it can't be reallocated. And we do some specialized recycling that we'll explain here in a moment, but to be honest, we have very little that goes into the trash. This is just a specific list of what teachers are keeping in their classroom and what the PTO sorts through, and then what we're essentially recycling or putting in the trash. And I know you'll get a copy of this later and can kind of look through everything here. This is not a one-time only thing. If teachers need more supplies, they can ask for them. And we have a stash that the PTO, where the PTO purchases extra. So if we have a new student come on board, or if, you know, if a pencil box really broke, we'll just get another one.
All right, I guess it's my turn. So
sure
once
is.
the teachers are once the teachers are done sorting their supplies, this is where all of our parent volunteers take over. So the teachers either put things in the collection boxes, or they have a box just outside of their classroom if they don't want to do any more sorting. So as Kim said, we kind of leave it up to the teachers how much they want to do. And so the last 2 weeks of school, the parent volunteers are going around and collecting all of the supplies from the teachers and from those collection boxes and taking them into the library to be collected and sorted. So this is kind of what our library looks like those last 2 weeks of the school year. We have just lots and lots of boxes and lots of labels, so everything has its place. So you can see here we have a spot for erasers and felt tip markers and scissors. So anything that's coming in from the teachers, we are putting into a separate place to be sorted and organized and inventoried. So we have a lot of volunteers that come in and help us with that. Then once we've collected everything, we test and sharpen and get everything ready to be used again. So this was actually happening, these pictures were actually happening the day after the last day of school. So kids came back to school and were sharpening pencils and testing markers and sorting things. So this is probably the biggest time that we need volunteers. So you can see a giant bin of markers there. Those are all the dead markers that don't work. So someone went and tested all of those. We make sure that the pencils are sharpened and ready to be used for next year. So it feels like you're getting a new set of colored pencils, even if they aren't. And then we sort things into packs so that they can be used again. One thing we've learned is crayons are very hard to sort and sharpen, so we do our best, but and they're also very cheap. So we do our best to reuse as many as we can, but we have kind of learned along the way to be done with those or to pass those along to someone else if needed. So here is sorting markers into packs and crayons into packs so that we base them off of what you would buy. So those are the 12 pack of markers. You just get a bag of markers instead of the regular box of markers.
I'll just add here too that,
Yeah.
you know, teachers have different styles. So for example, for me, I don't need individual crayons, crayon boxes for my students. So I'm okay getting a whole package of red and then getting a whole package of blue. So what this program helps us do is really differentiate and accommodate teachers where they are. Some teachers will just take loose crayons, and others are very particular about getting a brand new set of box crayons. Some teachers are okay with getting used markers. And so there's a lot of flexibility within our staff, and the PTO has been really great to honor all of those things for us. And we try to reuse as much as physically possible.
And the one nice thing too, having done this a couple of years, we know what's in the building now. So we know that we only have Crayola markers because that's what the teachers want. We only have Ticonderoga pencils because that's what the teachers want. So we keep the same brands and the same things that they want in the building. And so we're always just reusing and sorting those. So once we've collected everything, we inventory what we have so that we know we don't need to buy those items. We stack them into these lovely bins that we have. So you can see one of our inventory here. So we have college ruled notebooks of various colors because some people want red and some people want yellow and some people want a mix. We have wide ruled notebooks, all of those sort of things so that we know what's in here. We put all of these into our spreadsheet that we keep. And so now when we get an order in from a teacher of what they want, we know what we have and we know what we need to buy. This is, I think, my favorite fun fact is that at the beginning of this, we collected glue sticks from the entire school and brought them all in, and we have not purchased glue sticks for 2 years. So when parents complain they feel like they're buying a lot of glue sticks, you are buying a lot of glue sticks. So I'm very excited that we are reusing those. So what do we do with unusable supplies? Kim, this is you.
Yep. So we have 3 options. We donate whatever we can that is still usable. And so that might be crayons that teachers no longer want, that we're not going to spend time sharpening. It might be loose leaf paper that one teacher decided they wanted to use, but now aren't really using. So we try to donate as much as physically possible. Sometimes kids do come in with off-brand things, and teachers know that those off-brand products are of lesser quality, and so we donate things like that. There are a couple of different organizations that we donate to. Art Scraps, we work with our 360s community, and then some other places there. We have some direct contacts with some Montessori schools within our space, within our city, and we donate to them. And then after we're done, we even found that when we did our initial big collection, like let's clean out the cupboards and get everything out of the building that we're just not using, that's taking up space, we actually found that the middle school needs a lot of loose leaf paper. And so we just gave the middle school all of the paper that we had in the building. So have found some creative ways to get these products back into circulation with other people. So if we can't donate things, then we recycle. And we cannot recycle most of our things in our traditional blue bins. I need to make that very, very clear. So we utilize some specialized recycling through TerraCycle and through Ridwell. And then Allie just told us about the National Crayon Recycling Project. So we're really excited to maybe find a home for our crayons that we're not sharpening and reusing. And so we have been, we know what items can go with Ridwell and what can go with TerraCycle. It's very specialized recycling. And if there are some specific questions about that, we can certainly answer them. You can look up TerraCycle and Ridwell and get some information about that. Generally though, what we are recycling through these specialized programs are markers, pencils, pens, glue sticks, and crayons, and then notebooks and some folders are going in our traditional blue bins, but we do remove the spirals, Allie, before we put them in the blue bins. And then trash is our last option. And honestly, we really just don't have very much that goes in the trash. Erasers, if we can find a place for recycle, we certainly will. We have crayons on here because that if they're just little tiny nubs, we do throw those away. Plastic folders really can't be reused again, especially if they're in deteriorating conditions, and binders that aren't really good for reuse. So that is honestly what we're putting in the trash. Things that are at their end of their life.
All right, that was the big part, was the clean out and collection and inventory. So next comes the supply list for teachers and families. So at the end, towards the end of the year, usually at the beginning of May, we provide teachers with a shopping list as a Google form. The teachers complete the form and then send it back to us. So this is all teachers in the building, not just classroom teachers. So special ed, specialists, all of the teachers have a supply list. They can get the items that they want. And they're for items for the teachers, not for a whole grade. So you're buying things that you know you're going to use. And that's one of the ways that we can save on purchasing excess supplies. So this is an example of what we send to teachers. So they put their name and their grade, and then they go through and say, I need this many notebooks, I need this many markers, I need this many crayons and stuff. So it does help to have the standardized list. You can't just say, what do you want? We kind of force them into certain categories. But we always have the option of, is there something that's not on here that you would like? And we can talk about individual requests that way. But we did find it's helpful to do this. And then it helps because it's in a spreadsheet and we can easily go into our inventory and figure out how many we need and what to buy from there.
I will say that another reason why they standardize the supply list is for purchasing. It will make purchasing easier when we can buy, when the PTO can buy more of that quantity in bulk.
Right. Yeah. The more the same, the easier it is to purchase. So families are used to getting their school supply list on a piece of paper or, via email of what do I need to buy this year. We just send home a paper that has a QR code and a link to pay for their fees. So all families are asked to pay for $30 to pay for their school supplies for the year. They don't have to go shopping. They don't have to do anything else. They can just pay it from their phone. We also have a pay what you can and a donation option if parents want to help support other families that maybe can't afford school supplies. And the really nice thing is that every kid has the same supplies when they come in on the first day of school. So nobody's stressing about, did I get the right supplies? I don't have the money to afford all of the supplies. What do I buy? They're there. You pay what you can. And we are able to have everybody have the same thing at the beginning of the year. So the inventory and purchasing part. So once we've done the inventory of what exists in the building, we have a list from the teachers of what they need. We can cross-reference those lists, and while we know what shopping needs to happen. So we create a shopping list of all of the items that need to be purchased over the summer. Then we have a set of volunteers that goes and looks at that list, and we just shop deals kind of like everybody else does. So we those back to school deals start in July. We've kind of done this for a couple of years. We know what our ballpark price range is for the items that we're looking for, and we buy either the sales or in bulk, usually at your regular Target, Amazon, Walmart, Sam's Club kind of places. We do some in-person, we do some online purchasing, whatever kind of works the best to get the prices that we want. This is just a little example of kind of what our spreadsheets look like. So on the left, you see, we have like crayons, markers, colored pencils, watercolors. We have how many we need to buy, how many have purchased, who purchased them, how many are left to purchase. So some deals you can only buy a certain number of them, so we have to, or there's only so many in stock. So we kind of keep track of what we need and where to buy them. And then the one on the right is kind of the full inventory. So, how many do we need? How many do we have? How many do we need to buy? Kind of keeping track of all of that. This is what our houses look like in the summer sometimes. So we get big purchases and then we take them over to the school periodically during the summer, but we're just buying all the school supplies. And so the delivery process. So about 2-3 weeks before school starts, we kind of get a bunch of volunteers together one more time to deliver the supplies to the teachers. So volunteers are doing all of the kind of the hard work of getting everything out to the teachers so that when the teachers come back, they have their supplies and they're ready to go. So we create a list for each teacher based on what they requested in the fall. Sometimes things change and we can work with that. If they have more students than they thought, or if they even moved classrooms or a new teacher came in, we can work with all of that. So we put all of these supplies that we've been purchasing out into one classroom or one area of the school, and then somebody just grabs a list and they just start picking items. So we have some pictures of that. So we have a bunch of adults, children, kind of working together to go through supplies. So you can see just boxes of supplies. Everybody's got a piece of paper and they're just going for an individual teacher. They need 10 of these, 12 of these, whatever they need. And then we have carts and we deliver them out to the teachers' classrooms, put them out in front of the doors so that they're ready to go when the teachers come back for that week before school starts. And then restocking. So if you look at this previous page, you can see all these Clorox wipes, things that are really bulky, like Clorox, like Kleenex boxes, things like that. If teachers need restocks throughout the year, they don't have to have all their Kleenexes in their room for the entire year. We can buy them periodically throughout the year. So I would say like 4 times a year, we send out a restock request. So we ask teachers, hey, is there anything you need? And so they can just very quickly say, I need some more Clorox wipes. I need some more Kleenex boxes. I need some more markers. They can just put that in our form. We go and purchase those in bulk and then deliver them to the teachers, and so they have what they need throughout the year, and nobody has to go buy things. Oh, I ran out of markers, I need to go buy them. They're here and available. They also can request them just at a random time. So if they have a new student coming in, or maybe a pair of headphones broke and they need a new pair of headphones, we have a secretary at our office or in our building that helps with those kind of things. They can just go request them from her or from the PTO and say, hey, I need 2 more pairs of headphones, and we usually can get those within the week out to them. We do have a lot of extra supplies in the building that we can distribute to teachers as they need them. I think that is, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so this is I will just say that what we do is a lot, and the PTO does most of this. And we have put together kind of a leveled flyer of the different ways that you can enter into this concept. And I will say that we do all 4 of these levels, and we did it right from the beginning. You don't have to be that overachiever. You can just do level 1 or level 2, kind of like whatever works with your system and with the people that you have available to help you. It was really important that we get administrative support, which we had immediately. And then just to express, like, this was a PTO idea. They came to the school with this idea. And so I'm the contact person within the building to help make this happen. But this is really driven by parents. And Beth and Jackie, who's on the call here, are really the leaders in this. So Allie, that really concludes our presentation. So we're open for questions.
Yeah, this was amazing. I think Megan still has her hand raised. Megan, was it related to the paper or plastic folders preference? Oh, it looks like she said yes. Okay. Do you have a preference on paper or plastic folders?
We have debated about that a lot. So paper can be recycled, but they don't last quite as long. So there's a debate on whether it's better to use more and recycle them, or to use fewer and reuse them. So we have decided so far on plastic as the way to go, just because they do last longer. And some children are harder on folders than other children. And so plastic has been our choice at this point.
Okay. And then there was another question from Jamie too. Jamie, did you want to ask that out loud, or do you want me to just read it from the chat?
I can ask.
Feel free to go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. I was wondering, because what you're describing, it sounds incredible. I'm wondering, what is the people power that is required to carry out all of the things that you do? I'm thinking about my own school. I'm at a middle school, which automatically is a little different than an elementary. And we have about a little over 1,000 students. I know GEMS is not that big. And so I'm just wondering, what is the engagement level of parents? How many people volunteer to be a part of this? I'm trying to think about what would we need in order to make something like this happen at our school. So I was wondering if you can give me an idea.
Yeah, Jamie, I think like in terms of like looking at this poster, like starting at level 1 within a school, right? Like there are no outside organizations that need to support you to do level 1, or at least to get started. If you're in a school or if you're a parent, like you can start there by just somehow collecting and figuring out how to reuse some of these school supplies. And then creeping into a little bit of level 2, where you might be where some products might lend themselves a little bit easier to a level 2 process. But then in terms of taking on to the next level, which is what Beth was really describing, Beth, like you talk about the people support for that.
Yeah, so I mean, and again, it depends on how much you're like, do you want to sort through all the markers, or do you just want to donate the markers? You know, so like that can vary a lot, because really the coloring utensils are hard. And also a middle school uses different supplies, maybe not so many crayons there. And middle schoolers can help a lot more with that. I can imagine they would be better at, collecting notebooks of the same color than a kindergartner would. So I think you could get a lot of support from the students as well, if you can get the whole school on board. I would say we have a, core group of about 5 parents that really do a lot of the bulk of this. And then various other parents that are, jump in at the heavy lifting times of the sorting. But there's like 3 to 5 of us that are really super and, into it. And then, yes, another 5 or so that join in, and a lot of our kids helping too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a great program. I'm really appreciative to you both for your time, and yeah, reach out to Kim and Beth. They are amazing resources, as well as Heather and Jackie. They've just been, I don't know, just at the helm of all the new things at Garlough for so many years. So thank you so much for your time today. And I love this flyer. Did you create this on Canva?
No, Chat
was
GPT created this.
Okay.
Full disclosure.
I was like, wow, impressive.
No.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to just pop in with a few quick slides. Oh, I got to remember to share with sound here. So this should be sharing my screen once I go into presentation mode. Okay. So I just wanted to add a few more things on the topic of waste reduction really briefly from Dakota County schools. This photo is a shout out to the 25 Dakota County schools I'm aware of right now that are using stainless steel reusable trays currently. So that's exciting. So why do we care about waste prevention when we have recycling? Every product has a life cycle with resource and energy inputs and waste and pollution outputs generated at each stage of the life cycle. So every time we buy something new, we have to keep in mind that the full life of the product exists, not just the disposal part, which I think we tend to focus on is where does this go? Recycle, compost, trash, reuse. But the reality is, there's a lot of environmental impacts before it ever comes to us, because everything we use comes from natural resources like trees, water, minerals, land. A lot of things go into making our items and takes a lot of energy to get these products to us to be made into something we can use. So just want to keep this in mind. If we can't reduce or reuse, we hopefully can recycle the product, which eliminates that first stage of getting the raw materials. And if it's glass or aluminum, we can do this indefinitely, which is, forever, which is pretty awesome, without it losing quality, where paper and plastic, eventually can only be recycled a certain number of times before being made into something like a napkin or a chair. So that's what recycling takes out of it. We don't have to go out to the rainforest to get the bauxite ore and deforest that space. We can use that aluminum we already have. Whereas reuse gets rid of those first 3 steps where we're using something over and over and eventually disposing of it once it's at the end of its life. Maybe like something like a reusable cup used with a bulk milk dispenser. So instead of a milk carton that's only used once and then recycled, we have a reusable washable cup that we can use over and over. So reducing kind of more steps. And then of course we have waste prevention, which eliminates all of the steps because we never needed the product to be created in the first place. So thinking about how many reusable bags, maybe think to your house right now, how many reusable bags or water bottles do you have in your cupboard or closet? Do you really need that many bags or water bottles? Because we know they don't have a benefit unless they're in use. So what can we not be consuming to have it not be created in the first place? Which I know is a little bit of a paradigm shift. And we know recycling is important. It's required. It's oftentimes the easiest thing. But the 3 R's are in that order for a reason, with reduce at the top, then reuse, then recycle. Because not using something in the first place or reusing something over and over is a much larger impact. So I think we want to shift a little bit from thinking about how can I get rid of waste to how can I prevent waste from being generated. And so I put in here a few examples of things schools have done. I wanted to really quickly just highlight, we did a case study with Pine Bend Elementary back in 2019. So it's been a while, but they had amazing results in their clean out. They did not do the extensive involvement with the PTO and the school supply list, which could be, that next tier like Kim and Beth were talking about. But they did do a collection of those reusable items. And, they had a sorting station. They had 2 categories, one for notebooks and folders, one for everything else, school supplies. And they were able to, with Green Team students involved, and they borrowed our scales to weigh the items. They borrowed our bins. You can do so as well if you would like to host a clean out in the future. They found that of the majority of the nearly 700 pounds of items from their end of year clean out, 25% were reused, and they only had 20 pounds of that 700 pounds was actual trash. So the rest was recycling and reuse. So that's pretty incredible. Another school used maker spaces in the classrooms as an outlet for students to, use that stuff and build with it later for their projects, which I thought was a great idea. And, making reuse, as I said in this slide, just as accessible as trash and recycling. So even if it's nothing extensive, maybe you're doing a staff clean out of your offices, can you just put a cart by the trash and recycling containers and say, hey, put your reusable stuff here so we can at least have a look and maybe incorporate it into our, office supply room. Or do we have an area we can create for reusable packaging so we can reuse those cardboard boxes for shipping or bubble wrap? So just, starting where you are and building from there. We also have information on that link on our website, on that selling, donating items related to like, what can you do as a public school? Can you give it, to another public school? So under Minnesota law, you can donate to other public entities, other public schools, cities, counties. And then private schools are allowed to use like Minnesota Materials Exchange and other items like that. So there's more information there on our website related to that. And then I wanted to just show a really quick video because it's fun. No, you don't get to see the surprise yet. Okay, let's see. I hope I have sound. Let's find out. Is no one hearing the sound? Okay. No. You know what? I'm going to just put the link in the chat and you can watch it later. It's essentially a really cute video, and you'll also have the link from the presentation slides. But it's just a cute video that actually Oak Ridge Elementary had created with their students. So they have what they're calling goose paper bins in the classroom, good on one side, so that they can reduce their paper use. And if it's only been used on one side, let's use the other side for scrap paper or art or whatever. Making printing in your school the default. So, changing it so that mindful behavior isn't really necessary. We as humans work from habit. So let's lower our barrier to success. Let's just make that the default. And if we want single-sided, you have to select it. Not asking people to go an extra step. Encouraging the purchasing of sustainable products from state contracts, with recycled content or green cleaners. And then also creating a public display maybe of how much a product is thrown away in one day. So several student groups have done this in the past. You can see in this photo, they used plastic straws for their display. I've had a group use utensils to kind of show how many utensils are we throwing away every day in the lunchroom for plastic. So just kind of that visual art helps bring it home for people. And then just even simple reminders like that glue example, use less glue, or with the paper towels, these are made from trees. So just reaching people where they are. It doesn't have to be super complex. And obviously these are all areas outside the cafeteria, because I know we focused on the cafeteria significantly last year. So just trying to give a few other examples. And I'm curious, does anyone have a guess on what they think this is on my slide? Maybe you've seen this artist's work before. I can't see anyone, so you'll have to unmute. No takers? All right, I'm revealing it. So this is 1 million plastic cups, the amount used on US airline flights every 6 hours. So when you have art kind of being your, focal point. It draws people in. Thinking about how you can make waste feel personal to either yourself or others at your school, so it's not just out of sight, out of mind, and reminding, it all goes somewhere. Many of our items are made from non-renewable resources. Plastics made from oil. Aluminum, like I mentioned, is underneath rainforest, that bauxite ore. Where we get our stuff matters, and there's only so much of it. So waste reduction and reuse, we know, not only saves money and waste from the trash, but it also makes sorting easier for staff and students and reduces contamination and frustration. So I'm excited to quickly jump to our interactive activity. We have Dustin here with us, but we're going to just spend a little time really briefly on that. And then we'll learn all about composting. So this is something I'm trying this year. Haven't tried Mentimeter before at our workshop, but I want to hear from you all. So you hopefully can see the Menti on the screen. It's either a QR code, so you can use your phone to scan that, and then you'll be able to answer questions that way. Or you can go to menti.com if you'd rather use your computer, and you can just type in that number, those 8 numbers that are on the screen. So once you're logged in, you can answer that first question, thinking about how you reduce waste at home. All right, I'll maybe give it 10 more seconds here. And there'll be more questions if you haven't quite got in yet. It's all the same code. All right, let's see. Awesome. Composting, collecting food scraps, cloth napkins, Buy Nothing. I love Facebook Buy Nothing groups. I'm obsessed. Okay, these are some great answers. Making sure we actually need the item. We have a lot of composters in this group. Food scraps to chickens and reusing glass jars. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, so I think it's just good to get out of our heads sometimes of like, hey, we're already doing this. We're already reusing. We all are starting from somewhere. We don't have to jump 10 steps ahead, but how can we incrementally make changes in our lives to kind of get to a better place? So right now, my big thing is going to Terra Market. I'm dragging people there all the time, where I'm really into my refillable deodorant right now, which might sound a very grunge to some people, but it's fun for me to kind of add something to my repertoire every time. Or now I'm refilling my shampoo bottles or doing toothpaste tabs. So I did not start there, but you can get there, as you just try new things. Okay, next question. How does having less waste make you feel? And these will just pop up as people respond. I would think of maybe 1 or 2 words that come to you. Yes, fabulous. Yep, at ease, calm. I'm sensing a theme here. Lighter, accomplished. Yeah, just free. And I think that that's important to remind ourselves like, hey, this isn't an inevitable problem. Like we can address it. Awesome. Oh, I love seeing all of these responses. So fun. And I love a good word cloud. Okay, awesome. So let's go to the next one. So after thinking about how that waste makes us feel, what items frequently end up in the trash at your school? This is also a word cloud, so think of like shorter answers. What products or items are you mostly seeing? Or maybe something you'd like to tackle? Yeah, milk cartons, food, plastic bottles, those dang 3-ring binders. Someone say in the chat over here, the paper boats from breakfast in the classroom. Snack wrappers, yep. And as you look on any of the responses, does anyone have anything like come to mind that could address these things in the trash? Like I'm thinking, chip bags technically are snack wrappers, can be addressed through TerraCycle. It is an extra step, of that, hey, we're gonna box everything up and we're gonna ship it, but it is something that is possible. Right. It's not waste reduction, but it would be recycled. Someone have an idea?
Better sorting, better containers too. I'm looking at paper. That seems to me that a lot of people are throwing paper in the trash. So if we had better containers to sort, that might eradicate paper in the trash.
Right. Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Jamie. Plastic anything. Okay, I think it just moved us. Oops. Well, what ideas do you have to reduce the trash at your school? So thinking about what was in the trash, maybe it's, bigger things that are in large quantities. Maybe it's the smaller things, like markers. And feel free to also unmute, or if you'd like to elaborate on your ideas beyond just this response, or perhaps share something your school is already doing well, you can do that too. Yes, steel cows. Does everyone know what a steel cow, what they mean by that? The bulk milk dispensers? That's pretty exciting. I think we have a few schools now with those in Dakota County, but definitely hoping we can get more schools doing bulk milk in the future. And we do provide funding for that in our grant program, if that's a possibility for your school. Oh, yep. Labeling trash bins, setting up collection boxes for unused supplies, food share tables, and education. Oh, awesome. Compostable wraps on burgers and sandwiches. Great. Oh my gosh, these are great ideas. Student recruitment. Yep. Lots of things to work towards. Don't make students take a milk. That might be related to Dan's question earlier. And it actually is not, just so you know, it is not required to take a milk. I think there's still, that confusion exists out there. So you have to meet certain meal requirements, and dairy can be one of those, but it doesn't have to be. So it used to be you were required to take in milk no matter what, and that has changed several years ago. So having that signage up in the cafeteria, making sure we're educating students and even staff of that, is important, so that they're not taking something they're going to just either put on the food share table or throw away. Great. Okay, and our last question, thinking about those ideas we generated together, what are some things you might need to implement those ideas? So maybe those are strategies, maybe those are resources. Is it, yeah, I can think of a lot of things. What's needed to make it happen? Time, administrative support, money and understanding. So kind of to that time, money, people, and staffing, okay. Custodial buy-in. Yep. And feel free if anybody wants to elaborate. This is our last question, so if anybody needs to vent or wants to unmute, feel free to elaborate on any of these things you might need. Looks like time is the most popular answer. But also staff buy-in. Okay, great. Well, I will have these answers, and I'll share them out as well, just so we have, yeah, it was fun to do this together as a group and just to kind of see where people are at with different things. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here so Dustin can start sharing because Dustin Montey is joining us here today. Dustin, are you here?
I am, yes. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, I can hear you. Thanks for your patience.
Perfect.
So I'm going to just do your
My
quick
screen
intro.
sharing?
Yes, your screen is up. So Dustin's the director of Dakota Prairie Composting and has been supporting the organics recycling operations at Shakopee, Midwauken, and Sioux community since 2014. Dustin currently serves on the Minnesota Composting Council's board of directors, is a certification commissioner for the United States Composting Council's Research and Education Foundation, and holds a professional certification as a certified compost operations manager. In his position, Dustin is responsible for overseeing all aspects of the facility, including compost operations, colored mulch production, offsite wood grinding, sales, and delivery of products. Dustin was instrumental in researching, planning, and permitting the expansion of the Shakopee, Midwauken, and Sioux communities' composting operations. Thanks, Dustin.
All right. Thank you, Allie, for the great intro, and thanks everyone for being here. I got a short window and we're running a little over, so I apologize if it seems like I'm going fast, but I would like to just say if anybody has any questions, my contact info will be on the end. Please follow up. And then we also do tour groups or tours for school groups, nonprofits, gardeners, you name it. So I think Allie's going to touch on that a little bit later. So I'll kind of jump into it here though. Dakota Prairie Composting opened our new facility here in Shakopee in June of last year. We were previously operating about 15 minutes up the road under the organics recycling facility, was our very crafty, thoughtful name that we came up with there. So obviously with the rebrand, it's a little bit more of an actual business name here, but we operate on 60 acres, and this facility is permitted to accept up to 212,500 tons of organic material per year at full capacity. So here are some pictures of that cast system.
Hey, Dustin.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not seeing it advance. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I'm not seeing your slides move.
Ooh, that is
on my screen.
Going to be problematic. One moment. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, no worries.
Is it advancing? No, we're still on.
Not yet. Still on that intro slide. But I do have it if you would like me to.
Maybe we might have to do that.
Yeah.
It shows that maybe if I could also just try really quick stop share and reshare, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Does it say background?
Oh, now it's working.
Okay, so so quickly run through that again. So we opened in June of 2025, so last year. Covered aerated static pile is the method of composting that we do here. We're operating on 60 acres and permitted for that full 212,500 tons annually. So I thought we'd have a little bit more time. I had originally switched to this slide so you could look at the picture, but we'll, again, just in the interest of time, we'll have to kind of keep pushing here. Slide changed. We get two pictures now. Hopefully. No.
Here, I'll just share if that's easier.
Let's do that so we don't have to, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. Okay, I am sharing my screen.
Yeah, then I apologize. We're probably going to have to do the next slide thing, everyone.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so here are some pictures of that cast system from our first few months of operation, and I'll get into those a little bit later here. Next slide. And this is an aerial view of the site that's was taken on June 30th, so a little bit more recent. I was going to quickly kind of point some things out, but again, we kind of fell a little bit behind here. So just on the far right at the kind of top, there's that building with some solar panels you might be able to see on it. That's our shop and office. And then as you work your way to the left, we just kind of have drop-off, screening, windrow curing, and then active composting as well. And then on the far left is just material stockpiling that we'll get into. Next slide, please. Oh, is it not? Next slide. Is this the, should be slide 5, I believe.
Basics of composting.
Okay, so it didn't change on the, I'm seeing an aerial shot.
No one else is seeing basic composting? Wait.
No.
That is kind of strange because I'm just sharing my whole screen.
So I've done this once before, which I could try. We'll just have to go really quick, or try to attempt this, where I could do like a screen share each time, like if that makes sense. Like I could basically just keep screen sharing. Can you see basics of composting?
Allie, do you want me to try?
So I'll try. I don't want to keep us too long here. Let's see, I'll try this. So what is compost? So compost is organic material that decomposes into a rich soil amendment. And we like to say that really anything that was once living can be composted. So your fruits, vegetables, plants, wood leaves. We also like to say, kind of like in commercial composting, even things like hair and bones will break down in composting. Oh, this is going to be a challenge. Okay, is it a new slide? Are we seeing the how does composting happen?
Yes.
Oh no. Some are not, some are. So let's see. I'm getting yeses and nos on the new slides here. So how does composting happen? It's bacteria. So bacteria for this group, we have microbes. So we have bacteria and fungi that are actively breaking down those feedstocks, which are giving them the energy and nutrients that they need to survive. But that activity generates a lot of heat. So the heat gets trapped within the pile, which accelerates that decomposition. And it's the kind of building that perfect environment for all those microbes to quickly break down all of that material. Sorry, I have to like reshare each slide and hope that it's coming up. Right. So step 1 at our facility is we collect the material from really anybody that wants to bring it to us. That's a kind of a misconception that we've heard, that people have thought that it was only local or tribal. But really anybody that wants to bring material into us, so whether that's residential, commercial, municipal entities, or school districts are bringing in. And so that's brushwood waste, food waste, manure bedding, and some of those like yard waste materials.
And Dustin, I'm sending screenshots into the chat of the slides that you're on, just in case people can't see. So you can just keep going.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, then I'll look at the chat, make sure that they're there then. So some of the acceptable materials that we would bring in here. In general, here are some of the categories or things that we accept. So as I had mentioned, any food, whether it's meat, dairy, or bones, fruits, vegetables, candy, if you can eat it, we'll take it. The food, sold, paper products, compostable products, yard waste, wood waste, natural wood waste. A key thing that I like to point out here is number 2 on that food, soil, paper products. So we do not want any recyclable products. If it can be recycled, it should go to a paper recycler. And we also don't want any paper towels that have been used for cleaning. So we get we see cleaning products or solutions that are designed to kill bacteria. That's obviously going to hurt the process. So that along and with biohazard, we tend to see more biohazard potential with napkins or paper towels that are used for cleaning up certain things. And then another kind of point of contention that is slightly different for this group, but in general, we do not accept restroom sourced paper products. So like for drying your hands, we could probably make exceptions for schools if your school was interested in doing some bathroom waste collection. The number one reason why we say no to that is because we do see a very high level of contamination that would be like needles, glass, used feminine products, different things like that is what we tend to see in those bathroom waste cans. But with schools, I'm not super nervous about some of those. So if that was something that anybody's interested in, we could definitely have a conversation around that. Let's see. And then what we do accept is, or of the compostable products that I had mentioned before, we do accept BPI certified products only. So BPI is a third-party certifier of compostable products, and they're also currently the only acceptable third-party certifier that's allowed by state law in Minnesota. So if they are not currently BPI certified, nobody else is actually passing the regulations of the law. And this is because BPI is currently the only nonprofit that is going to require the label that you see here on the left, that BPI certification label, on all of their products. And what that does for us composters is it kind of proves to us that we know we can trust that label and that that product is safe, because there are so many greenwashed items out there that people get very confused. So we see that BPI logo, we know it's safe for us to accept and compost. The products are also going to meet all of those ASTM standards, as well as some additional standards that BPI requires, like no additional PFAS or PFAS chemicals. So they cannot have any additional added fluorines to their products. A lot of other products out there do. And this is what that logo is going to look like on the left, like I had mentioned. So by law, they have to have this on the smallest unit of sale. And so if you were to buy a box, let's say a box of straws was the smallest unit of sale, technically just that box has to have that label requirement. But ideally, our operators are looking for all the products that come in, they're looking for that logo to quickly identify if we can accept the load or not. I forgot, I got to do this every time. And here are some examples of misleading products. So misleading products, there are so many. These are just a few very small examples. We're looking for things that you're going to commonly see in the store, like this sustainably managed forest, recyclable if the recycler accepts food, soil, paper products. It is not compostable. That's for a traditional recycling paper, but I don't know any local recyclers that accept food, soil, paper products, so it's just trash. Renewable resources. Other terms that we see a lot out there are bamboo. A lot of people, they try to put crafty kind of, the green or brown labeling around bamboo to kind of fool people into thinking that it might be compostable. Or you're going to see a lot of green or brown labels, kind of like what we're seeing here, or green letters, or you'll see leaves, or you'll see kind of that full circle, like recycling kind of logo. All of these are really just designed. It's a great marketing ploy to make you think you're doing something that's better, but the reality is you're probably just buying trash. Everything that's pictured here is trash. There's no recycler that will take them, and they're not compostable. So that's kind of why that looking for that BPI piece really is key. Next is, once that load is accepted, then we will do a load inspection. So during that load inspection, we're looking for we're looking for kind of the big three is what we call them. So glass, metals, and plastics, and that's also like kind of the non-compostable items. So we're actually gonna have an operator dig through those loads and inspect, and the load must contain less than 5% contamination in order to be accepted. That is kind of it's more of an art than a science. You can't do it by weight. If we had to do it by weight, obviously plastic is significantly lighter. There'd be so much plastic overtaking the load that it would ruin everything. So it's just 5% kind of by looking at kind of the overall load. This is an example of some of the loads that come in that are clean, ready to go. I would say that these loads that come in often don't look this beautiful. Oh, Allie, did you get the first picture? Maybe not.
I know
caught
Rachel's been sharing them in the chat. Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
so
you're good.
An example of like some of the contaminated loads. So they don't always come in so beautiful. Like I said, here it's a picture of some contamination. You can kind of see just by looking through here, there's some steel can, there's plastic trash bag, plastic liners, plastic bins, little plastic fruit cups and the foil lids. We frequently see those. Excuse me. Sorry, guys, this back and forth is messing with my notes too. There we go. Other things that we see in some of the contaminated loads, like you'll see here, would be sometimes we're seeing like actually sorted materials. Like you can see kind of in the left there, a sorted trash bag. And then on the right, it's like some sorted recycling. What we tend to notice with these are it's typically due to either a labeling or a training issue. So everybody that handles that waste stream needs to have an understanding of buy-in, and they have to have that training to understand where they go, because this is a perfect example where those two were sorted correctly. They were just put in the wrong bin. And then I have specific school lunch loads. These came directly from school lunchrooms. And these are, I would say, unfortunately, I'd say probably typical for school lunchrooms. We see kind of a lot of like what you're seeing here, chip bags, empty lunchable trays, plastic lined cartons, plastic cup lids, trays, water bottle. These would all be or both of these loads would be considered more than 50% contaminated, and probably they would be rejected from accepted into composting. One of the things that's not pictured here is in a shredder that we have, and I'll get to a picture of that pretty quick here. There's a magnetic head pulley that actually will pull ferrous metals out, and I could probably open a store with the amount of silverware that I get from schools. Knives, forks, not a lot of knives, forks and spoons though. I mean, thousands a year we pull out from school lunchrooms. Another thing that I wanted to share specific to this group is the compostable lunch trays that you may see, or some of these molded fiber trays. So any molded fiber or PLA is the compostable, like they look like plastic, but PLA is actually a plant-based resin designed to break down in composting, but they'll look like a plastic cup. If you stack all of those together, they are not designed to break down when they're stacked together. And I know I've heard feedback from some of our like custodial staffs that they save space in the dumpsters by stacking. And I do get that, but they will not break down. So here's a couple of examples. For a lack of better term, they turn into almost like a pulpy mass in the process. So when they stay stuck together like this and they get a little wet, they almost kind of glue together in one giant pulpy mass. I've got another example here of what happens with those cups, and then you can see on the left, and you can see that shredder in the middle. That's what all of the material goes through for size reduction. So you can see the stack of cups on the left there. They did go through that shredder, and they kind of hit open, but they stayed like this through the process. And then on the right are cups that are a hot compostable cup that stayed together through the entire process, and that's what it looked like at the very end after the whole composting process. So you can see it really doesn't break down well. Step 2 in our process, after kind of I wanted to make sure I covered a little bit extra there specific to schools, but now we're going to be grinding kind of everything down for that size reduction and then blended into a recipe for that active composting. Step 3 would be loading that material into an aerated bunker for about 20 to 25 days. And during those 20 to 25 days, we're passing a series of regulations for pathogen reduction and ultimately product safety. And this slide is showing kind of just another aerial photo of those bunkers, but for some size comparison. In the middle of those two bunkers between the two CASP systems is a full-size front-end loader. And then if you look kind of down to the bottom left of that picture, there is a full-sized 4-door red pickup truck. So just kind of some size comparisons so you can see kind of what that looks like.
And people are able to click on these in the chat if they're not pulling up on your screen. Just hope everyone's doing that.
And then I wanted to kind of quickly also show here then the what the aeration floor looks like. So if you kind of think about it, it's like it'd be like if you were hovering your hand over like an air hockey table. That's kind of the forced air that's being blown through the floor. So you can see there are 4 kind of slats in each bunker, and they can either push or pull air down for optimal composting. Each one of those compost bunkers holds about 400 tons or about 800 yards of material in each bunker. So about 20 to 25 days, you're getting through about anywhere between 400 to 600 tons of material. I wanted to kind of quickly, real briefly go over kind of how that system works. So each one of those bunkers are controlled independently and can switch between positive and negative aeration based on the temperature set points to kind of achieve that optimal compost. And it's that covered aerated static pile or CASP system. So real quickly, that just means that you can either push air through the pile or pull air down to really get the best compost that you're looking for. After 20 to 25 days, it's going to move into our windrow curing. Windrow curing, the material spends about 45 days there where it's being tested for maturity. And during that time, we're also, switching slides. We are turning those windrows. So in that curing process, and when we're turning those windrows, really what we're doing is we're monitoring those temperatures going from that thermophilic down into a mesophilic range. And that's also when we're kind of stabilizing any of those carbons, incorporating more of the moisture. So we'll water these rows. And when we turn like this, you can see it also kind of will introduce fresh oxygen fairly quickly, as well as kind of release any of those lingering gases in that process. And then when the product is actually considered done, so you've done that 20-25 days, you pass those regulations, which are a series of kind of temperature set points and different things that we're monitoring. Measuring a Solvita 5, which if anybody's interested, I can get to that later. It's some sciencey stuff. And then it's curing for about 45 days. At that point, we are then ready to move into our screening. And screening is really just, we're doing this, that's kind of size reduction and meeting kind of the customer specific needs for what products they're purchasing. So this is just quickly kind of showing our seconds down kind of in the middle there, or at the bottom, is really product that's going to go back into that composting recipe for a chance to break down. Fines are what's being sold as compost, and you can kind of see in the background there that larger pile of fines that are being stockpiled. And then on the other side of the machine here, or what we call overs, or like the really larger pieces in that process that'll also go back into the composting process again. And then again, showing the fines that are ready for sale. One thing I want to point out on this machine right here is if you see those red roll-off boxes or those dumpsters, you can kind of see those silver tubes that are connected to them. And what that is they're connected to, just for a real quick basic understanding, is think of it like a vacuum. And what it's doing is it's going to be able to pull any of that light film contamination out at this point. I do want to make note that if there are compostable products that have made it to this point, it's like a vacuum. The vacuum doesn't know whether it's compostable or not. It will remove that contamination is how it views it. So, sorry, here we go. And share. And then quick picture here, just kind of showing some of that finished compost. And our facility participates in what's called the Seal of Testing Assurance. It's a USCC program. It's a third-party certification where we send all of our compost out to a lab where they're doing testing for these are some of the big things that they're testing for, but they have a whole slew of testing that they go through. But you're really looking for some of those big ones, right? Any heavy metals, pathogens, is it a mature product and stable? Are you going to get the nutrients and the pH that you're looking for? And obviously looking at that organic matter as well. Some of the benefits of compost, I could probably spend an hour just talking about benefits of compost. I won't do that to you, but I will say that compost is just amazing for the sense that it has the ability to break up compacted soil, but it can also add structure to sandy soil. So it kind of is a 1-2 punch on your soils there. You're really other benefits that are not on here is the ability to sequester carbon from the atmosphere. So when we're worried about our kind of carbon overload, you can sequester carbon and lock it right into your soil, which is good for plant health as well. You're able to get that kind of natural slow release fertilizer. You're promoting those healthy soil microorganisms, and you're most importantly diverting from a landfill. But I'd argue most importantly, I'd actually say you're getting the organic, bringing those microorganisms back into our depleted dirt is what I'm going to call it. Big problem that we have in the United States and arguably the world, but I'd say more so here, is our heavy reliance in the past on synthetic fertilizers have actually done great to give you that snap instant growth, but those fertilizers are actually killing all of the living health that's in the soil beneath your plant, right? So in order for a plant to really thrive and survive, you need a healthy microorganism, you need a healthy soil, you need all of that life that's down underneath in the soil. And unfortunately, years of heavy fertilizer use have just killed our soil into dirt. So adding compost back into those areas and stop using those synthetic fertilizers are actually going to bring all of that life back underground and bring everything full circle and healthy. I know, again, I could speak for hours on this, so I won't do that to anybody, but trying to wrap up here really quick. So we've sold, 730,000 yards is a kind of a rough lowballing number. We know we've sold more than that of finished compost products and product sales. A lot of the bigger customers are bagging companies. So currently, if you were to go to Home Depot and buy some Scots Miracle Grow, it's probably got our compost in it. We have pretty much the bulk of compost going to the Scots plant right now. Many municipal or roadside projects, homeowners, landscapers, and then we've actually had the pleasure the last couple of years. I know this year got a little goofy with timing, but of also being able to deliver that product to several schools within Dakota County for school projects or gardens as well. And with that, I will hopefully people are still seeing that, but my last screen. Our slide is I'd like to say thank you to everybody, and I'm sorry for trying to rush through it. Not being able to click through slides did not help, but I want to try to stay as close as I can on time, and hopefully we can, if there are some questions, I can help. Otherwise, again, I want to make sure you have my contact information, and feel free to reach out. But thank you.
Yay, Dustin. Dustin deserves a gold medal for whatever tech issues are going on. I thank you for being a trooper. I have no idea. I'm going to put in a help desk ticket at some point because this is the second year that Teams has failed us. 2 for 2. So sorry about that, Dustin.
No, I get it.
Any questions? Megan has a question. What haulers do you receive material from?
Any hauler is welcome to come in. We would just have them set up an account, or they can do kind of a cash account, but pretty much all of our local haulers are already on accounts and regularly bringing in. I think we have over 40 different licensed haulers that have accounts set up with us right now.
Awesome. And yeah, even though people had to look at the chat maybe, and Dustin was frantically going back and forth for us, we will have his great presentation available after the workshop too, both in the recording and the folder for those who maybe weren't able to click into the chat. So thank you so much, Dustin. And yeah, feel free to reach out to him too with more questions. Dakota Prairie Composting is one of basically 2 compost facilities so in our metro county. So if you are doing organics collection at your school, chances are 50% chance that it's going to Dustin. So
yeah,
great.
We were getting a bulk of everything. As Waste Management recently purchased SET out of the Empire site, which is also permitted for food scraps. And now that it's a Waste Management site, things are getting a little unique, especially even just in the hauler world from Dakota County. Shouldn't affect anybody. You guys would never see any of that, but it's kind of a unique world right now. So yeah, we definitely. The only other last thing that I guess I would add is. We've just because our facility is located within Scott County, we do quite a bit with helping out Scott County's Green Grades program that they have. And so we would also like to be a great resource for the county or the schools if there was any help or anything that we could do, similar to that program or your programs, just to kind of be able to be that resource as well. So thanks again, everyone.
Great. Thank you, Justin. I really appreciate it. And I am sharing my screen, hopefully. Just really quick, just like several slides on just a few quick reminders for food scraps collection. Now that we've learned from Dustin where organics is going, we want to make sure our compost is contamination free. So most schools in Dakota County are required to collect food scraps as long as these requirements are being met that are on the slide here. But I just wanted to do a quick quiz for schools. The area that's required to collect food scraps, where are we required to collect food scraps from in schools? And because we're short on time, the answer is back of house. So kitchens, food prep areas, this is the only place it's required. It's behind the scenes, not food that's been served to students or the public. So anywhere that we're generating food scraps from food prep is where we want to be collecting. Places like the kitchen have ability to train their limited number of employees to ensure only food scraps are being collected and contamination is being kept out of those BPI certified compostable bags. And collecting food outside the kitchen or food prepper areas is optional. I would recommend not to expand to the cafeteria or staff lounge or other areas unless you can ensure it will be a success with limited contamination. And ways to see if it would be a success is to make sure these things on the slide are in place. I'm not going to go into each of these in depth, but I'm always available to chat with anyone about this topic and elaborate on each of these points to see if organics and where organics is a good fit for your school, if it's possible to do outside of where it's required. But you can see in these photos, contaminated organics with chip bags and plastic, that goes to Dustin, that goes to the compost facility. So looking at what your school organics looks like, and if that's what it looks like in the kitchen, then that's where it's required. So we need to make sure we're doing staff education, we're doing training to get that cleaned up. But if that's what it's looking like in the cafeteria, then we might need to make some major adjustments if we want to continue that. And then just thinking about when we throw away or compost food that could have been eaten, all of those resources that went into making the food are also wasted. So focus on waste prevention first for food and implement what's possible from the best practices. So kind of one of Dan's questions is related at the beginning of the workshop to the meal requirements. So educating students on meal requirements. I'm happy to chat with anyone more about that, but just making sure people know you're not required to take a milk. You are required to meet, 3 of the 5 categories, but you can do it in different ways, and we can do things in creative ways to reduce waste, which some schools have done. So that's on our best practices here. And composting, as you can see in the hierarchy, is in the orange there. It is not at the top of the list. So it has numerous benefits, of course, and for inedible parts of food, for things at the end of, what we've been able to eat, that's great to do. But we want to also be thinking, is there a better outlet for that edible food to donate or feed people, as well as just not waste it in the first place. And here's some resources. So I'm going to kick out of this and head to Meghan's slide here, because Meghan Bernard is here to join us to go over some top recycling contaminants and solutions. Meghan, are you there?
Yeah, hello. Thank you so much for having me today, and we'll try to stay on track. Dustin, what a great presentation on the trays. I'm constantly sharing that with our staff to not stack trays, and that is a great picture of why.
Yeah.
I can just do this, Allie, and you can flip the slides if that works. So hopefully these are, yep. So I lead the sustainability program for the West St. Paul, Mendota Heights, and Eagan Public School District, or 197. I've been in this role for about 5 years, and prior to that, I had a consulting firm called Innovate Waste, and I did a lot of work with Dakota County and Allie, as well as a business program to work on solid waste management, organics, and recycling programs. In my role here, I work with child nutrition as a district wellness manager, as well as just managing our district's energy, water, waste, natural resource. I do a lot of grant work throughout the state and county level. So yeah, I'm excited to be here today. Thanks for having me. All right, so we're going to talk, this is really broad, and it's meant to be that way because I know we have people from just a lot of different areas. So maybe this presentation will spark something along the way for some of you in this group that we'll hit on. So waste hierarchy, we'll talk a little bit about that, which has been hit on quite a bit already, and then material management and engage, implement, and measure. So waste hierarchy, I know we're preaching to the choir here, but next slide, we're just once again revisiting most preferred versus least preferred methods of waste management. We're always looking to reduce waste and reuse first, with the least preferred being the treatment or disposal, landfill, etc. And then just when you think about school waste, there are a lot of streams. There's e-waste, plastic film, paper, cardboard, plastic, disposable, scrap metal, organics, equipment, construction, hazardous, cleaning supplies, furniture, yard, trash, and I'm sure there's a few others. So material management. So I chose to select a few of these waste streams to talk with you all about today. The first is e-waste, batteries, and fluorescents. Dakota County has a great vape disposal program. The link, we won't go to the links just given time, but this presentation will be shared, and all these highlights are links that you can get right to the website that will help you order those resources for your schools. So the first is a vape disposal program. It's a kit that can be delivered to your school where you can collect vapes for disposal. Because vapes contain lithium batteries, lithium we want to keep out of the landfills. They also pose just a lot of hazards when collection, fires, etc. Batteries recycling zone is an option for battery collection. And then for fluorescents, batteries, and ballast, we use recycled technologies. They have a state contract. It's a very reasonable price. The method we do is I communicate with building engineers that we're going to collect these materials and to get them ready for pickup. And then our receiving person will go around, collect those items, and bring them up to the recycling technologies site. So that's a really helpful. They also take shredded paper in addition. So just check out their website for a list of what they take. And that's our Live Green Club. Sorry, that last picture. So they did they hosted a vape recycling up in Mendota Heights during Earth Week. And they had a ton of vape pens collected, unfortunately, but good. Okay, so plastic film. So one thing that I've tried to do is look at some of these streams that often are like in our trash stream and how do we get them out. And plastic film was something that I identified in our kitchens. We use quite a bit of, which I'm sure many of you do as well. You put them around clean equipment, you put them around food that's ready to eat. Their packaging comes plastic. As well as our receiving. So I focused on kitchens and receiving and utilizing the Next Truck program. If you click on that link, it'll bring you right to the site that you can order the containers. And these containers, we keep them in our kitchens. And then I trained our kitchen staff on what's accepted, and just followed up with them. Currently, we pick up about every 2 to 3 weeks from the kitchens is what it takes to fill up a 32-gallon container with plastic film. And then I worked with Merrick. Merrick is a service that provides plastic pickup in the metro area, and they serve people with disabilities. So it's a really great community resource. And one of the key points with this was finding a place to collect and store our film for pickup, because it's similar to like getting your trash or recycling picked up. So we found a loading dock that was covered, and we found some toters that had lids on them because you want to keep the plastic dry and clean. You also want to keep animals out of there. But really the plastic that you're collecting is free of residue. So that was an important part of training staff, was like, hey, if there's been chicken nuggets or cheese, any residue on the film, we don't want to collect that material, but it's just more of your packaging material. But the positive staff feedback has been great. First, it's helped me get to know kitchen staff and just be part of their team. And I've just had a lot of comments from staff that they really like doing this program because it helps them feel better about not throwing away all this material. And then the Next Truck, if you're not familiar with it, they take that plastic film. It's a really pure stream, and they make plastic decking out of it. So the Merrick service is really reasonable. It's about $30 a month for the pickups. So if you need any help with that, let me know. Okay, then furniture and equipment. We have worked on getting a furniture exchange on our website. It's just an internal staff hub where I just made it really simple. It's a Google form that you can click on and see what's available. You can also post things that you are looking for. It's still gathering steam, but it has been effective. We've been able to find teachers' desks and chairs and repurpose a lot of equipment. The other thing we use is Masmus, which, if you're not familiar of it, it's an organization for facility managers. A lot of school districts are part of it. And they're a great resource for publicizing equipment that we want to, that we consider obsolete. Like if we are replacing desks, for example, and we have older desks, So we utilized that a few years ago when we had a lot of school equipment that we were looking to give away. And that was very helpful. The last thing we do is the Minnesota surplus for public bid. And this has been really helpful. There's an online auction. You might be familiar with this as well. But this is some of our old food service equipment that we replaced recently. And I was skeptical whether they would actually go to a new home, but they sure did. And it's just another great way to repurpose instead of recycling those items. Okay, so scrap metal, speaking of recycling, cannot go into municipal recycling. It's oftentimes bulky. It's a stainless steel, for example, so it just really should not be ever going in your recycling dumpster. It's just hard for our recycling facilities to handle. So what we do is collect and gather scrap. We do try to disassemble, as you see in this picture, but Northern Metal will take pretty much anything with metal on it. It's just that if you have other materials, you're going to get a lower rate of for that metal product because it's based on the weight that you're bringing in. So what we do is similar to our light recycling. We'll let building engineers know, hey, we're collecting metal from our building. Please get everything together. This is the date it will be picked up. And then we utilize our ground staff, a district vehicle to collect that metal and bring it to Northern Metal. And once again, we're getting paid for that metal we collect. So that money can then go back into our Live Green Fund. Okay, cleaning supplies. We did touch a little bit on this earlier. I think Allison talked about it. But one of the things we looked at was we were using disposable mops and they were getting really expensive. They're like $8 a pop. And so we switched to reusable mops through our cleaning service, which comes and picks them up and washes them. And that is around $1.50 a mop versus the $8. We also wash cleaning rags in-house. That saved money as well. And then we use Buckeye. We've used them for a few years now. They have both hand soap and cleaning solutions, and they have a pouch refill, so it's about 83% less plastic than using the regular rigid plastic containers. And we really like this program. This has already been touched on, but just reducing waste. Grants have been great. I'm currently working with the MPCA on a waste reduction grant for Two Rivers High School to implement reusable silverware and trays through installing a dishwasher. So that will happen this fall, but definitely reducing waste and getting away from disposables by looking for BPI compostable ones is a great way to go. Also, we serve as much as food possible in bulk, and we've gotten rid of like plastic to-go bags, things like that. So to Allison's point of like really keeping sorting simple when you're in the cafeteria so that, a 6 or 7-year-old isn't trying to decide if like yogurt cup is recyclable or not. If you're just simply serving yogurt in bulk, you've now eliminated that problem completely. Okay. And then paper, we use Shred It. I'm sure many schools do as well, but we've really discouraged any private shredders and just gone to our Shred It systems where it's collected by a service. Textbook donations, this is something that we built in the past couple years now, and it's been really successful. Books for Africa will take any books. They're located in St. Paul. You drop off the textbooks. Pretty much any textbook that's less than 15 years old that's not specific to the United States. So math books, English, anything that, children's reading books. And this has really helped quite a bit to have this outlet for books. So that, once again, highly encourage you guys, if you haven't looked into donating books, check that out. And then Kim Benton, and Beth, thank you for that end of year clean outs. They've done an amazing job with that. So, okay. And then lastly, just informing, implementing, and measuring. So these are all links. We won't go into them, but if you are interested in any of these things, I just shared these. Please feel free to take them as your own and use them. The first is custodial collection. So this is a process that we share with our custodians. It goes over how to collect containers and like what should go with what. We always stress that it's not our custodian's job to pick through the trash or recycling or organics. But it is their job to let us know if there's a lot of contamination. So that goes over that flyer there. And then the teacher's workshop, I guess we were seeing there was like a lack of communication with teachers about what goes where and how to prevent the contamination. So I really worked with our Live Green leaders to have them present for 5 minutes at the back to school teachers workshop, just to answer questions and to bring the conversation into the present school year so that teachers could be part of that. The classroom waste audit, this is for our Live Green teams, but a school could do this on their own. I think we just slid past that, but the waste audit is basically a way for students to go in and learn about what it walks you through the steps of going into a school and going into the classrooms and auditing the waste containers for trash or recycling and what should be there and what shouldn't. And then there's a way to basically leave teachers feedback that they can share with their class. And this shout out goes to Kim Benton because she came up with this waste audit, and it's been really helpful for our schools to do this. It engages the students, it engages the teachers, and it just helps everybody get informed and improve what's happening in the classrooms. Because the classrooms can be what's really challenging to change, as you all may know. This is just district communications. This is another link there, but just so we try to keep the district staff engaged around things that we're needing. So I would see a lot of styrofoam and cardboard that wasn't broken down. So just sending out little messages in your district news of, hey, please break down your boxes, or other things like that can be really helpful.
And I know I missed this, Megan. Your custodial waste collection guide that you were talking about is here, linked, as well as the teacher workshop, which is super awesome.
Yep. Yeah,
Awesome.
and please feel free to take those and share. Just touching on middle school waste sorting, because it can be really challenging for middle school for some reason, but we really focused with one school this year on reducing just getting milk cartons out of organics. So the recycling was pretty good, but the organics was challenging. And so we did a month-long challenge where we had our custodians just measure based on like a system of, estimating how much contamination was in the organics, and then reporting that for a challenge. So that's something else that you can do and work with your school administration on if you're interested. Ellie, yeah, if you guys have any questions or if you want to do the audit, you feel free to reach out to me and I can help you with that. And then last, so student engagement. The waste sorting challenge is what we just talked about, the classroom audits, and then the sorting videos. If you don't have to do it now, Allie, but if you click on that sorting video, it's just like a 45-second video that I made that's shown to the middle school students, or we have them at every grade level, but it's a less than a 1-minute video. We asked the teachers to show it the first week of school. And then even after Christmas, winter break, sometimes we'll show it again, but it just goes through the process of what students do during lunch. And I found that it's really helpful to show this before they're in the cafeteria when they have all the sensory overload and they're trying to do it. So the videos have been really helpful. The other thing is the signage. Sorry, if you go back, just to Allison's point of having the physical signage, the physical samples right there, I've just found they work a lot better. If possible, to put them in the cafeteria, they seem to be much more effective than a poster. And then measuring, so depending on your hauler might give you weights. We use Aspen and they do give us weights. So I use those weights to help us measure how much organics and recycling and trash our waste consists of. but you can do some other ways too. Like if you have an 8-yard dumpster and it's 75% full, you can estimate that you have 6 yards of trash a week, for example. So right sizing your dumpsters to reduce not only your costs, but to really kind of estimate how much waste you're generating. So you want to be at least 75% full the day before pickup and have the fewest pickups to reduce your costs. And then seeking other waste diversion strategies, like we talked about the recycling of scrap metal, the donation of materials, the plastic film recycling, and then really communicating and setting a goal. Like right now we're at 45%, but this is not also counting our reuse. So, but communicating that goal with your school board, with your school itself, so that people know that this is something that you're working on and that they can contribute to. And then where do you go from here? Because, right, we're all coming from different places. One thing is if you don't have a green team yet, starting that or a task force, it can start small. I loved like the step 1 that Kim gave as far as like, here's a place to start is just getting a green team or a task force going. The other 2 things that have been really helpful. Well, I'd say that the biggest has been the Center for Green Schools. If you want to click on that link on your own, that is a really awesome organization. It's nationwide. They have annual conferences. I go every year. I'm always looking for more people from Minnesota to come. I would love to network with y'all, and they have tons of professional development. They're free. The conferences and just the Google Zoom calls are free as well. They have a lot of great research and just like networks there. So check that out. And then Minnesota Green Steps is gaining some momentum here, but that is a school network that supports sustainability work, and they're looking for schools that want to be part of that as well. And yeah, please feel free to reach out if any questions. This is Garlough highlight today. This was after the end of 3 lunch periods or 4 lunch periods, and that was the amount of trash that they had. So going bulk, really sorting properly is the way to get to zero waste. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Megan.
Yeah, thanks.
And any quick questions? I can take maybe one question for Megan. Otherwise, obviously her contact info is available to everyone following the workshop. She's doing amazing, incredible work. She's such a resource. We're so lucky to have her in our county.
Thanks, Allie. That's not deserved, but thanks.
Very deserved. Awesome. And I think still District 197 is our only district that has a sustainability manager position at the district level. So if that's something you can work to encourage in your district, you can have somebody at the helm like Megan that can manage the water, the waste, the energy all together in one position instead of having it fall on people who have 50 jobs already. So, okay, great. Well, thanks, Megan. You're the best. And I'm going to share my screen. Once again, we're going to try to do the impossible in 15 minutes. Hey, it goes till 11:35 though. Everyone remember, you don't want to leave early. You got that extra 5 minutes because I got some exciting stuff. Okay, so just to re-emphasize what Megan was saying, I'm going to whip through this. Recycling right. Obviously, these are things that we want to focus on. Paper, cardboard, cartons, metal cans, glass bottles, and plastics. I think we all pretty much have known or seen these basics, and if you haven't, these will be available after the workshop as well. Let me go to the next slide. Okay. So we want to really focus on making sure things get recycled right, emptying liquids, no food, caps and lids on with those flattened boxes. And then I think we're, doing this, our standards in classrooms tend to be a set by the teacher's desk, a set by the door. So just making sure those are paired is really important. People are going to be human nature, tend to walk to whichever container is closest. And if they're not paired right next to each other, everything's going to probably go in that one bin unless they are really passionate and care about recycling. So make it easy, make it part of the routine, and they're buddies, they travel together. And it's also required now in our recycling requirements that wherever there's trash or recycling, they're paired within 10 feet. It's also required now that they're labeled, which is why we provide free labels. So these are available to you. And then some of our no's, these are kind of our main no's. So just really high level, going to go through these, and I can talk more in depth with anyone that wants to dig into some of these more. No styrofoam. I put the I love you symbol if anybody knows sign language, because that's what I talk about with kids. We love recycling, and it works with adults too. 1s, 2s, and 5s are the plastics that have markets, that have strong markets. So those are the recyclables we want. We love recycling. So that's a good way to remember 1, 2, and 5. Resin codes, that picture on the upper right of the number inside the triangle, that is not a recycling symbol. You're going to see a resin code on all plastics. That's just telling you what type of plastic it is. I know, not confusing at all, right? So the recycling symbol was actually invented first, and then the plastic industry said, oh, that's kind of nice. We're going to use that to label our plastics, and now we're stuck in this kind of confusion. So we're kind of seeing some more labeling systems appear, but just so you know, just because that styrofoam has a number 6 with a triangle, we don't accept polystyrene, in our regular recycling programs. So that's something there. Another no is plastic bags and tanglers. That is due to, tanglers can be things like string lights, garden hoses, electrical cords, chains. We really need to keep recycling loose, and it's because of things like this. This video is showing a machine. They have to stop, I think, every at least 2 hours a day to physically cut out the bags and cords off the sorting line at the recycling facility that get wrapped around the machines. So that can be dangerous to workers and obviously bad for equipment and not getting our recyclables sorted. So for plastic bags, the solution would be either like Megan's saying, working with Merrick, having a plastic bag kind of separate pickup for getting those recycled. And that's a picture of those containers that are provided from Next Trucks. That's actually a photo from one of Megan's kitchens of how they're collecting plastic bags. And we have plastic bags and wrap labels available on our order form, as well as no plastic bags labels. Another solution would be kind of looking at how are we collecting things in the dumpster? Are we making it easy to be bagless for custodial staff or building engineers? Or is there a way, maybe at teachers' desks, that picture of the recycling bin with a side saddle trash? Do we need to have a bag in that trash, or could we just have that be combined into a larger trash at offices or maybe the classroom teacher's desk? So just thinking about things in different ways. As well as managing our tanglers properly through electronics recycling, or if it's a chain, through scrap metal. And then no shredded paper, that is a definite no in the recycling or organics, but it is really highly valuable. It's a high quality paper. It just can't go in the recycling because, as you can imagine at a facility like this pictured, it's confetti, it's a party. So that's not going to end up getting where it needs to go. So we really want to work to eliminate those school-owned shredders like Megan was talking about, and just moving towards having a confidential shredding service come with these locked carts. They'll either shred it on-site, off-site, and basically they'll just come pick it up. There's a state contract available for that, and it makes sure it goes and actually gets recycled. Because after they shred it, they bring it right to the paper mill. They can bypass the sorting facility because it's all paper. So they don't need to have it sorted out with all the categories. So that is a solution there. And we do now in our grant provide funding for those who haven't had a shredding program in a certain building or location to have 6 months of confidential shredding service funded through our grant to get that started. So reach out to me if you're interested in that for any of your schools or district. No liquids or food is really important in the recycling. This is important because of, I'm going to play this quick video. This is showing in this video on the right that principle of using polarity of magnets to repel aluminum cans into a different bin known as an eddy current. That's not going to be possible if that's full of liquids. That puff of air is not going to send it where it needs to go. Same with plastics. So plastics have a laser optical sorter. So they're actually reading what type of plastic it is and sending it. So this particular machine in this video is reading for number 1 PET and number 5 polypropylene. And so if you have a half a water bottle that you threw in the recycling and you didn't dump out your liquids and put your cap back on, it's probably not going to make it. So really important for things to be empty, and doesn't need to be completely dry. It's obviously not possible to be completely dry, especially milk cartons in the cafeteria. It's just empty is fine, so that it doesn't get that paper all gross, and then it can get where it needs to go. And then just considering different areas, related to cafeteria versus breakfast in the classroom, related to liquids collection, our grant program can help you think through those things. And the standard order of bins, this is really important. So I've kind of started to develop this more about before you even get up to the sorting station, pre-sorting at your table, in your tray, what are your categories? I'm going to unwrap my carrots from my plastic baggie if that's what they're in, so that I'm not on the sorting station trying to one-hand it. So having my pile of wrappers, having my organics, and having my recycling ready to go, or recycling and trash ready to go. And the order is for a reason. When we dump our liquids out, it's typically milk cartons. We already have our milk carton in our hand. We put that in the recycling. Then we have our wrappers off our tray. And then if we have organics in the cafeteria, because we have a lot of things in place to make that successful, then we can knock our tray on the side or compost our tray at the end. Though now we know from Dustin we're not stacking, so we'll have to figure out how to get those in loose, and then either reusable trays or other things as applicable to your school. And reusable utensils, if you're doing that, please collect them first. That is really important to get those off those trays first. And we have schools that have kind of developed a forks first, spoons second motto, which is nice for food service staff so that they don't have to sort out forks from spoons on the back end of things. And then no scrap metal, like Megan has mentioned, she has a program for kind of collecting that. For the scrap metal, you can bring it for separate recycling through our VSQG program, or the program Megan mentioned. Pressurized containers like aerosol cans, propane tanks are really dangerous. They can spark, catch fire, or blow up when they're crushed. So just making sure these aren't going in the regular recycling, but are still getting recycled. And then no batteries or vapes in the recycling or trash. So some batteries, like lithium rechargeable batteries or button batteries, can be hidden in things like remotes or greeting cards or toys and power tools, and they can catch fire and combust on impact when damaged. So we do not want those in the trash or recycling. They're required to not be there, and they need to be managed properly. Vapes also contain nicotine, which is a regulated hazardous waste and can be absorbed through the skin. So we have that program for vapes now, and we're working towards kind of some solutions for batteries in the future. But some ideas for now, the battery network is a good one to reach out to. We have the city of Rosemount is showing that bin kind of collection system on the upper right. Most schools seem to have a collection for bins on the back end, but just starting to think about, for batteries, but starting to think about batteries from office spaces or from classrooms or places you might not be thinking of them. They may still need to be managed. A lot of times those are button batteries or different kind of hazardous waste. So thinking about what to do there, and then getting a program in place, and we can work with you on that in the grant as well. And then lastly, no paper products. So this is a confusing slide because these are all BPI certified compostable, but it's not confusing alone, but if you have it mixed with also plastic cups that aren't BPI certified, then you're going to have a actual plastic cup. You're going to have a BPI certified looking plastic cup. You're going to have a paper cup. So just thinking about what is your program doing. These things can't go in the recycling. They need to go in the organics. So if you don't have an organics program, thinking about what you're doing with the BPI certified products makes sense. And then as technology improves, that might change in the future. So paper cups are starting to be accepted in some cities, not here yet. But that's the exciting part about recycling, is things can change. And this is my contact. I'm actually going to jump right into showing y'all our new website and order form because I'm so jazzed about it. So this is our new website, and under school waste education on resources, We have educational resources here for schools. And then if you launch our school label order form, this is just like hot off the presses this month. You can go down to school, and this is our brand new online order form. So check it out, order some labels. We have labels here for recycling. We have labels here for trash, and in multiple languages too for these labels. So you can toggle, you can even download PDFs. And then the indoor and outdoor options, we kind of outline at the top. So it's not always outdoor, but even if you had like maybe a toter cart or something that had a rougher surface or a bumpy surface that our regular label isn't going to maybe stick to as well, you can order an outdoor label for that too. Even if it's used indoors, that just means it's going to be grippier. So we want to use the grippier ones for dumpsters, for outdoor barrels, for things like that outside, but you might need it for inside depending on the texture or surface of your container. Just know that they will not come off very easily or at all. So just make sure you want to stick it there. And then organics too, as well as liquids, and then some educational resources. We have activity guides with and without organics, as well as our new kind of clings and guides for both recycling, organics, and a combo version as well in multiple languages for all. So really exciting stuff. We're updating our food share table resources as well, but this is brand new. I don't know how many people have submitted the PDF form and had issues with PDF form, or I'm not getting it, or it's blank when I receive it. So this is just going to solve a lot of problems for us, and I'm really excited for all of us to have this resource. And then lastly, this will all be available obviously after the workshop, but it's mailed out to your school for free on our order form. We also have banners that are available. So stadium banners, we've created cafeteria banners. If you have an idea for something we haven't created, please reach out. I'm open to it. I now have two great school consultants, Rob and Maddie. So I think Maddie might be actually on the call. Shout out if you're here, Maddie. So they are working with me now, so I'm not treading water as much. After Meghan left, I'm like, what do I do? I'm one person. So it's really great to be able to work with them, and we all can put our brains together and help you come up with solutions if we don't have it yet. They also are our consultant to help administer our grant program. So we know nearly 80% of school waste is recyclable or compostable. So we have grants right now up to $10,000. I'm actually looking at the guidelines and updating those currently, trying to get a larger amount per school because of the fact that $10,000 just doesn't go very far. And we have worked with some schools 3 years in a row on just trying to get, indoor recycling, then outdoor recycling, then, food share tables. So just not being able to do, everything we want to do within that budget. So more to come on that. And we also have mini grants, which are $1,000. So those can be applied for right on our website, which is linked here. And we also have school training resources. These are all links, so that'll be really valuable to you. Please reach out and ask for the link for where we'll put our presentations, so you have all this great info. But this is a way to have presentations with talking points, templates, images. With our recycling requirements, you're required to educate as a school, all staff and students on recycling. And then related to organics, those who are kind of dealing with that food scraps collection. So is that food service staff only and custodial only, or is that more staff, or is that students? We have resources available for you to use. And then a new thing here, we still have our free field trip busing, so you can go visit sites like Dustin, the compost facilities, landfills, recycling facilities. We were previously working with Trisha and the Toonies with elementary school performances. She has since retired, and I'm looking at a new contractor, kind of putting out an RFP for that soon to have a provider for interactive in-school performances, hopefully later this year or early in the next year to be ready for Earth Day in the spring. So keep updated on our website for that, as well as we have recycling videos and curriculum you can access. And we also offer free compost delivery. So that's available to you year round as a school. as long as you've worked in our grant program, so another incentive to participate with that. And you can request up to 5 cubic yards of different compost soil types delivered right to your school, and that can be requested once per year. So check that out. And then we have education kits. We've actually done some updates on these. Thanks, Jessica. If you're here, shout out to my colleague Jessica, who's been working really hard on those. They look great. Previously, I will admit, they were just like a box with a bunch of samples inside, because it used to be just cities and counties using those, and we would know what to say, but now we actually have real talking points and things for your green teams to use. So check that out. It's pretty exciting. So just some info about our vape kits, or what our vape kits look like. Any school is eligible to request that. We have 49 kits that so far have been given out, and we've managed 1,250 devices since 2023, and also some high school collection events as well, like Megan mentioned. We also have a new residential brochure or flyer that was kind of inspired by the success of our school program. So awesome job, everyone. And then lastly, just our recycling guide. This is always eligible for anyone to use to search an item on our website. It's an online directory to help tell you where it goes, as well as our e-news that's quarterly as a resource to highlight both what schools are doing and what our kind of resources are for you. And that's all available on our new webpage. So not only do we have a new order form, we have a new URL. So it's now dakotacountymn.gov. And you can kind of bop around there and see the new webpage. Still getting things added as we're making everything accessible that's up there. But we have a lot of resources up already. So I somehow did it by 11:35. And thank you so much for being here today. Remember, recycling isn't just sorted out of the trash. It ends up somewhere. Trash is going to the landfill in Dakota County, and recycling is going to the recycling facility. Recycling does not go to the landfill. That is illegal. But if you put recycling in your trash, no one is sorting that out. So it's really important to be recycling right. And I just really appreciate you all taking the time today to join us. There's going to be a survey I'll send out this week to just gauge your feedback for future workshops. And then if you'd like CEU credits, please write down my email that's on this slide. Just reach out to me anytime and I can email those over to you. Again, there's 3 CEUs available. And then the workshop recording will be posted on our webpage, as well as if you'd like the presentation link, just send me that in your email as well. Just send me a separate request so I have that. We used to post our presentations right on our webpage, but now we have to put them in a separate folder so that they're accessible. So anyway, that is all I have. I'll stay on for questions, and thanks so much for being here. Have a great rest of your day.